Chapter 39-41. Do you remember him, Dad? Young Meirong looked at Jingde with tears in her eyes. This is my son, Jixin. Uncle Jing finally spoke. His voice was the same as before, but his tone and expression were a bit strange. Dad, it's really you. Dad, I missed you so much. I've missed you so much all these years. At this moment, Jixin was like a child, crying miserably. His tears flowed out like a fountain, each wave was fiercer than the last. Jingde held Jixin in his arms, and Bella, who was watching the reunion of mother and son, couldn't help but shed tears. However, Qin Chu watched it all coldly and became even more cautious. Even Huamin was affected by the scene, and Qin Chu was the only one who remained sane. After crying for a long time, Jixin stood up and Yang Meirong waved at Huamin. Mian, come here. Huamian walked over with her big belly, and Qin Chu followed closely behind. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to stop any sudden danger. Dad, do you remember who this is? Yang Meirong pointed at Huamin and said to Huamin in a choked voice. Jingde glanced at Huamin and his eyes flashed. Is this Mian? His question made Huamian very excited, as if he wasn't sure. She rushed over and tugged at Jingde's clothes, crying, Uncle Jing, it's me. I'm Mian. Mian, you're so big now. His words were like tear gas, making Yang Meirong, Jixin, and Huamin cry together. Finally, after the scene, everyone calmed down. Then, the family sat around the sofa. Mom, what on earth is going on? Huamin naturally wanted to know the details. After all, the fact that a dead person could come back to life was too terrifying and unscientific. Yeah, Mom, where did you find Dad? I went with you to identify his body and bury him. How did he? Jixin couldn't believe it either. Yang Meirong smiled and looked at Jingde. Why don't you tell the children? Jingde nodded and said slowly, in fact, my memory is not complete. I only remember some scattered things. When I woke up, I was in a small town in Europe. I had no past, no memories, and no identity. No one knew where I came from. Later, these memories gradually appeared in my dreams, and I followed them to this place. In fact, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I was reborn, transmigrated, or my soul was entrusted to another body. But I know that I am Jingde, and you are my family. After all, I only have you in my memory, and I don't remember anything else. How is that possible? Jixin was shocked. Huamin, on the other hand, looked much calmer than before. Qin Chu listened quietly and didn't speak. I met your dad when I was buying groceries at the market. At that time, your dad was standing there in a daze. Old He, who was selling fish, has been our neighbor for many years. He recognized him at a glance and called out his name. I rushed over to take a look. It was really him, so I brought him back. Later, I found out that although he had lost some of his memories, he still remembered most of them. He could even accurately tell me my birthday, the old house we used to live in, our neighbors back then, and so many more. He remembered them all. I think God has opened his eyes and allowed your dad to be reborn. Yang Meirong said to Jixin in excitement. Uncle Jing, you came back from Europe. It's such a long journey. How did you come back without any identification? Qin Chu looked at him and asked word for word. Chapter 39-42. Jingde replied calmly, well, I went to the Chinese consulate and told them about my situation. They compared the information and thought that Jingde and I were a perfect match, so they gave me a new ID card and went back to China. But to be honest, I really don't remember when I woke up and what happened before. Anyway, I went back to China after I woke up, and it was only a few days in total. Later, I checked some information and found that there was such a precedent in the West. It was said that after a man died many years ago, his soul traveled into a child's body. The child took all his memories and went to find his relatives. It's really mysterious. Many foreign experts also agree that people have past and present lives. It's said that the world's most powerful hypnotist can hypnotize people into their previous 9 lives and remember what kind of people they were in their previous 9 lives. It's really mysterious. Uncle Jing, you're so well prepared and knowledgeable. Qin Chu smiled as if there was a hidden meaning in his words. But Jixin and Yang Meirong didn't get it. Oh my god. I can't believe that old Jing came back to life. If people knew about this, they'd be scared to death, thinking that he came back to life. Yang Meirong said as she held Jingda's hand affectionately. So, Dad, you were the person I saw at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau that day? Jixin suddenly remembered what happened that day. Yeah. I just came back and went to the old house to look for you guys. But it was demolished, so I wandered around the streets. Until today, I ran into old he and your mom at the market. Jingda put his big hand on Yang Meirong's. Sis, this is great news. We must celebrate. Dad is back. Jixin was as happy as a child, just like Yang Meirong. Huamin nodded with a smile. Of course we must celebrate. It's great news. I'll go make dumplings. You guys talk. Yang Meirong was very happy and went straight into the kitchen. Dad, let me make tea for you. I remember that you used to love tiguanyin. Back then, we were poor and you always went to other people's houses for tea. Now that we're rich, Sis always buys me and Mom the best tiguanyin. You should try it. Jixin hurried to make tea for Jingde. Bella sensibly followed her mother-in-law to the kitchen to help. Hubby, I just remembered that we still have some wine in the car. Let's go get it. You and Uncle Jing can drink some later. Alright, I'll go now. I'll go with you. There's some food in the trunk. Huamin found an excuse and left with Qin Chu. After walking for about 10 meters, Qin Chu activated the anti-eavesdropping device and nodded to Huamin. What he meant was that it was safe now. You can say whatever you want. Honey, I observed him from a close distance. He didn't wear a mask. Yen told me how to identify a mask, so I paid special attention to his ears just now. I didn't find anything wrong with his ears at such a close distance. Do you really believe that he is Uncle Jing? Qin Chu asked her. How's that possible? I don't believe that a dead person can come back to life in broad daylight. Besides, if he is Uncle Jing, then, who is buried in the North Mountain Cemetery? Huamin sneered. This person is just as we expected. He showed up twice to set the stage but avoided all the surveillance cameras and didn't let us find him. Now, he suddenly appeared in your house and tried to pretend to be your family. This is really strange. Mian, we have to be careful. I can feel that our enemy is very powerful. Behind this, there may be dangers that we can't imagine. Qin Chu took Huamin's hand and warned her again. Chapter 39-43. Yes, honey, I can feel it. Why don't you leave it to me? I'm afraid you're afraid I won't be able to do it because of my feelings and guilt towards Uncle Jing. Huamin knew what Qin Chu was going to say. Qin Chu was silent, but it meant that he agreed with her. Huamin walked up to Qin Chu and reached out to touch his handsome face. Hubby, I won't. I'm very clear. The Uncle Jing who used to treat me well and dote on me, died more than 10 years ago and turned into a pile of dirt. Even if this man in front of me looks exactly the same and has the same memories, he can't be Uncle Jing. He reeks of conspiracy from head to toe. I didn't ask him in detail just now, but I bet if I ask too much, he'll be full of loopholes. When you saw his expression just now, I was really worried. Chin Chu said. You were worried that I'd be brainwashed and fooled by him, right? No. I was just acting to make him think that I believed him. Smart, honey. Hearing Huamin's words, Chin Chu was very pleased. Honey, when we go back, Jixin and I will accompany him. You find a chance to tell Bella that she and Jixin will live at Sky Blessing Court from today onward. And supervise that person to protect Mom and Jixin. Huamin nodded. Can Bella shoulder such a big responsibility? I'm worried, honey, don't worry. This person went through so much trouble to come back, he definitely didn't come to destroy my family. I can guarantee that he won't do anything big for now. You're right. Okay, I'll make it short with Bella later. Bella has always been calm and smart. Make it short and don't let that person find out, and don't let my mom hear, Huamin instructed. Okay, I'm just worried that Mom and Jixin won't be able to take it when they see his true face. Chin Chu felt that the cruelest thing in the world was to use the identity of a dead person to deceive the feelings of the living. Huamin didn't know what kind of power was behind this man. He didn't know how he managed to look exactly like Jing De. Maybe it was plastic surgery. However, this was a heaven-shaking conspiracy. It was definitely not a blessing from the heavens. After the couple finished their discussion, they returned to the house with the wine and fruits. Then, he saw Yang Meirong and Bella carrying steaming hot dumplings to the table. Uncle Jing, do you still remember what kind of stuffing we usually eat at home? Huamin asked with a smile. Jing De paused for about 5 seconds before he said slowly, shrimp with chives. It's great that Dad still remembers. I feel like we've returned to the past. Jixin was very naive and really believed that his father was back. He was even more excited when Jing De answered Huamin's question correctly. The family of 5 sat at the table and started eating dumplings. Yang Meirong didn't eat much herself and kept putting dumplings into Jing De's bowl. Dad, eat more, okay, that's enough. I can't eat all of this. Jing De smiled and lowered his head to eat the dumplings. Uncle Jing, were you alone when you came back from Europe? Didn't you get anything good from there? Chin Chu asked casually. No, not a single person. That's strange. How did you appear thousands of miles away? I wonder if someone moved you there, Chin Chu said in a low voice. Everyone heard it loud and clear. Maybe my dad was brought there by lightning or a flash of light after he was reborn. That's how it's written in novels about rebirth and time travel. Right. My dad died in a car accident, right? Maybe my dad's soul was already in this world when the car accident happened. Jixin's imagination ran wild. Huamin said with a smile, but reality isn't a novel. It's not that ridiculous and dramatic. Jing De's hand that was about to eat the dumplings paused slightly. He seemed to have mixed feelings about Huamin's words. Chapter 39-44. Okay. Let's not talk about this. Let's eat. Yang Meirong was bored by the children's conversation and hurried to eat. During the meal, Huamin didn't say anything else. Daddy, you'll stay here today, right? Jixin said happily. Of course. Where else can we stay? Yang Meirong said with a smile. Jixin, you and Bella can stay here. The house is big and you can spend time with Uncle Jing. Huamin asked Jixin and his wife to move back. Okay. I was thinking the same thing. Dad, you won't mind if we come back to eat and drink, right? Jixin put his arm around Jingda's shoulder. Of course not. Hee hee. Jingda chuckled. But if you looked closely, you would find that his smile was still unnatural. On the way back, Huamin didn't say a word. Honey, are you okay? Qin Chu was worried about Huamin. I'm fine. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about going to Southside tomorrow to do a DNA test to see who Uncle Jing is. DNA test. You'll get his. Qin Chu didn't finish his sentence. Obviously, Huamin already had the DNA test. Huamin raised his hand with a smile. There was a short strand of black hair in his hand. You're amazing, honey. How did you get this? Qin Chu admired Huamin's cleverness. He got Jingda's hair without a sound. Once the DNA test was done and there was evidence, he could convince his mother-in-law and brother-in-law and tell them that this person was not their husband and father at all. Since you got it, why do you still look worried? Qin Chu tilted his head and found Huamin didn't look happy. Hubby, do you think those people who are hiding behind the scenes and plotting against us will be so easily seen through by us? If it was really so easy to see through it, why would they go through so much trouble to create such a person? So, you mean? Yi Zichen asked. It's nothing. I'm just worried that the results tomorrow might be different from what we expected. Qin Chu reached out his hand and placed it on Huamin's leg. Calm down. Genes can't be easily manufactured. Otherwise, this would be the biggest joke in biology. I'm very calm. I'm fine. After returning home, she saw that Huamin was still in low spirits. Finally, Qin Chu decided to let her talk to Lu Yan. Of course, it was late at night when Qin Chu carefully activated several anti-eavesdropping and anti-tracking devices. In the study, he dialed Lu Yan's number. At this time, Huamin had already changed into her nightgown and walked in with a big belly. Hubby, why did you call me? Qin Chu didn't say anything, he just stood up and put the earphones on her ears. A very familiar voice came from inside, sister. Little Yan, hearing Lu Yan's voice, Huamin finally smiled with relief. Sis, it's late over there. You're still awake? No. I haven't been sleeping well lately. I'm always awake. That's because you're about to have a baby. Sis, do you miss me? Of course I miss you. Although she was scolding Lu Yan, Huamin couldn't help but smile. I miss you a lot, too. How about this? I'll go back when you're about to give birth. I'll go to the hospital with you. No. Huamin refused without hesitation. Why? Are you afraid that I'll go back and freeload? Ha, I don't eat much. 1 Australian lobster, 1. 5 pounds of shark fin, and 1 king crab every day. Lu Yan joked. Chapter 39:45. No. I'm afraid you're in danger. Huamin vaguely remembered Qin Chu mentioning that Lu Yan was in trouble. Especially Xing Ro's disappearance, which was rumored to be Lu Yan's doing. In order to find his daughter, Secretary Xing had offered a big bounty on Lu Yan's head. Lu Yan was like a fish in water when she was abroad. But in China, if her whereabouts were leaked, she would be in big trouble. Wasn't he being caught red-handed? You're afraid that old man Xing will give me a hard time, right? Don't worry. I'm not afraid of people with higher ranks than him, let alone him. Plus, he's obviously stupid. Xing Ro isn't in my hands. I don't know how he could believe the rumors. Lu Yan didn't seem worried about Secretary Xing. He could even joke around with Huamian, and even talk about family matters. Sis, do Pudding and Little Bean miss me? Yes, they talk about you all the time. Little Bean is talkative and murmurs your name. Pudding doesn't talk much, but she looks at your WeChat for a long time. Hearing your description, I feel so happy that I'm about to cry. Lu Yan was filled with happiness at the thought of her two nieces. Yan, have you contacted Dad recently? How's he? Hua Mian had been worried about the professor. He was an old man, after all, and it was sad for him to live in hiding like this. We haven't contacted each other in a long time, but Dad should be fine. If something happens, we'll send an emergency signal. But don't worry, the old man is smarter than I am. He'll be fine. Okay, that's good. You and Dad must take care of yourselves. Hua Min reminded her repeatedly. Sis, after I take care of this garbage, I'll go back to see you and give birth to baby Chu with you. Take care of yourself and don't run around with my brother-in-law. I know. Hua Min smiled with tears in his eyes. Honey. Chin Chu reminded her in a low voice. It was time. If the conversation was too long, it would be very easy to be tracked. Hua Min understood what Chin Chu meant, so he quickly added, don't bully Faye. Stay with him, don't get into trouble, and drink more water. Don't eat cold food when you're on your period. Don't fight, and don't get hurt. Before Hua Min could finish his sentence, she saw that the time was almost up and quickly hung up the phone. Then, she took a deep breath. Hubby, am I super long-winded? Yan must think that I'm possessed by Tang Sing. Hua Min raised his head and laughed with tears in his eyes. No, you're the best sister in the world. Mr. Chin cupped Hua Min's face in his hands and kissed her. His wife was always so gentle and cute in front of her beloved family. On the other end of the phone, Lu Yan slowly took off her earphones. She knew that her sister's words were cut short because time was up. Her sister's unfinished words were like waves of heat to her, blowing against her face. Growing up, no one told her that she couldn't eat cold food when she was on her period. So, over the years, Lu Yan had been eating ice cream and drinking Coke all the time, causing her menstrual cramps. Of course, these little problems were nothing to Lu Yan. After all, she was a tough woman who wouldn't even frown if she was shot twice. What's wrong? Why do you look so weird? Xiao Fei walked over and saw Lu Yan's blank expression. Chapter 39-46. My sister is so naggy. Lu Yan rubbed the back of her head and smiled mischievously. Lu Yan was so bright and cute that even Xiao Fei couldn't move his eyes away from her. He was deeply attracted to her. Hey! Psycho Xiao, what are you doing? Caught off guard, Lu Yan was kissed by him for a long time. Of course, she was used to this kind of intimacy and didn't push him away as violently as before. At the entrance of the Municipal Public Security Bureau, when it was almost time to get off work, Gao Ran packed up his files and walked into the lobby when he saw Chen Yuning, who he hadn't seen for days. Chief Gao. Little Chen, you're back. Gao Ran still looked unnatural. Yeah. I came to deliver some files for our bureau and came to see you guys. Chen Yuning smiled brightly and innocently. Those who didn't know her would be attracted to her. Chief Gao, little Chen bought us hot coffee. A policewoman held up the Starbucks in her hand. Chief Gao, if you don't mind, this is for you. Chen Yuning walked over with the hot coffee and looked at Gao Ran shyly. Oh. I've been suffering from insomnia recently, so I don't drink coffee. But I appreciate your kindness. Thank you. Gao Ran didn't dare to touch this woman, especially after he knew her true colors. The more innocent and cute Chen Yuning acted, the more scared he was. After much consideration, he preferred his silly woman. Lingling was hot-tempered, but she was real. If the woman beside him wore a mask all the time, the scene would be terrifying. Chief Gao, on the day I left, I was in a bad mood and didn't have time to say goodbye to you. Since you don't have to work overtime, I'd like to invite you to dinner, okay? Of course, if you don't come, I won't invite you to dinner. This little girl's strength lay in her ability to speak skillfully. It was clearly a threat, but it sounded like a spoiled child. Her meaning was obvious. If Gao Ran refused her request and didn't go, she wouldn't invite him to dinner. At this moment, everyone looked at Gao Ran expectantly. Director, you won't refuse, right? That's right, Chief. Let's go and relax. The atmosphere in the bureau has been too tense recently. Chief Gao, why don't we let ourselves loose occasionally? Chief, let's split the money. After all, there are so many people. Don't let Xiaoqin take it alone, okay? It seemed that everyone had a good impression of Qin Yuning. With so many people pleading for him, Gao Ran would definitely be unreasonable if he didn't agree. Therefore, after a moment of silence, he replied, "All right, let's have a meal together, but I'll pay for the bill." Oh yeah, long live Chief Gao. Ha, we must eat well today. It's rare for our director to treat us. After Gao Ran agreed, everyone seemed very happy. A satisfied smile appeared on Qin Yuning's face. Gao Ran then sent a WeChat message to Zhu Lingling. "Wife, are you there?" "Yes." "There's a dinner party at the city bureau tonight, so I'll be back later." "Okay." In fact, Gao Ran really wanted to tell Zhu Lingling that Qin Yuning was there, but Lingling hadn't been doing well recently. If he told her, it would be troublesome. After hesitating for a while, Gao Ran didn't mention that Qin Yuning would also be at the dinner party. Zhu Lingling thought it would be an ordinary dinner party, so she agreed without hesitation. There were about 26 people in the municipal bureau in total, and 27 including Qin Yuning. They all wanted to eat Sichuan cuisine, so they found a Sichuan restaurant. During the dinner, Qin Yuning didn't show any unusual behavior and kept a distance from Gao Ran. This made Gao Ran let down his guard. Then, Gao Ran stood up to go to the washroom, and Qin Yuning followed him. Chapter 39-47. The moment Gao Ran entered the men's washroom, Qin Yuning followed him in and bumped into Gao Ran on purpose. "Hey, you!" Lin Fan said. Gao Ran was about to scold her when he saw it was Qin Yuning, and he froze. "This is the men's washroom," he reminded her. "I'm sorry, Director Gao. I drank too much." "Ha! I went to the wrong washroom," Qin Yuning said while swaying on purpose. "It's okay. Go to the next room." Gao Ran thought it was embarrassing for a woman to go to the wrong washroom. Qin Yuning nodded and turned around, but she slipped and fell backward. Just as she was about to kiss the ground, Gao Ran reached out his hand at the critical moment and helped her up. That was how he saved her life. Thank you, Director Gao. It's okay. Go. Okay. Qin Yuning stood up and stumbled out with her hands covering her face. Gao Ran continued to go to the washroom, not noticing anything wrong. 5 minutes later. Zhu Lingling was squeezing fresh juice for Gao Buiyuan. She heard a beep from her cell phone. She unlocked her cell phone and saw a photo. In the photo, Gao Ran seemed to be holding Qin Yuning in his arms. Of course, the photo wasn't clear and was blurry. They seemed to be in the washroom. However, Zhu Lingling would never mistake the silhouettes of these two people, especially her own husband. Zhu Lingling's heart sank when she saw the photo. Seeing that the person who sent the photo was from a strange number, she knew it must be Qin Yuning's doing. But the photo didn't seem to be photoshopped. Zhu Lingling put down the unfinished juice in her hand. She picked up her cell phone and called Gao Ran. Gao Ran stood up and walked to the corridor to answer the call. "Honey. Honey, are you still having dinner? Yeah. Where? In a Sichuan restaurant downtown. Oh. Are they your colleagues? Yes. Is Chen Yuning there? Hearing Zhu Lingling's question, Gao Ran realized something was wrong. So, he chose to tell her the truth. She's there. Why didn't you tell me at the beginning? Zhu Lingling sounded angry. Because I didn't want you to be angry. So I'm not angry now. Zhu Lingling raised her voice in anger. Lingling, if you don't believe me, you can come here and keep an eye on me. There's no need. You've already hugged me, and you still ran to the bathroom. What's the point of me looking at you? Hug. What do you mean? Gao Ran looked baffled. Zhu Lingling hung up the call. Gao Ran was very anxious and called back, but Zhu Lingling refused to pick up. This really made him anxious. At this time, a male police officer also came out to use the toilet. Little Zhu, come here. Chief, what can I do for you? Here's 5,000 yuan in cash. Take it and pay the bill for me after dinner. If you want to go to the KTV later, I'll reimburse you tomorrow. What about you, Chief? I have an emergency at home. I have to go now. Oh. Okay. Tell them I'll be leaving. Okay. Chapter 39-48. You need to be creative when you run away from home. You can't go to the same place every time, right? Fine, Gao Buiyuan pouted, still not satisfied. When his mom said that they were running away from home, he packed his luggage excitedly. He thought he could go find Little Bean in a while, but, to his surprise, his mom took him to this shabby place in a taxi. Are you hungry? I'll order takeout for you. No. Gao Buiyuan continued to complain to Little Bean on his cell phone. Zhu Lingling looked at the blinking screen on her cell phone and still wouldn't answer it. In fact, she knew nothing would happen to Gao Ran and Chen Yuning. She didn't know how the little bitch got such an intimate photo. But Zhu Lingling knew her man well. If something had happened to him, he would have done it long ago and wouldn't have gone through so much trouble. Gao Ran kept calling, but Zhu Lingling still wouldn't answer. Helpless, Gao Ran called a friend in the HQ. Director Gao, what can I do for you? Are you in the office? Yes, I'm on the night shift. Locate this cell phone number for me. Then Gao Ran gave him a string of numbers. Are you arresting someone? You should at least tell your superiors. No. It's my personal business. This is my wife's cell phone number. Ha. Did you have a quarrel with your sister-in-law? It's none of your business. Locate it for me. Fine, fine, fine. But I'll blackmail you for a meal of hairy crabs. It was obvious that this person had a good relationship with Gao Ran. They chatted and joked with each other. Zhu Lingling changed out of her pajamas in the bathroom. She was going to take a shower. At this moment, the cell phone in the hotel room rang. Mom, it's the phone. Coming. Curious, Zhu Lingling walked over and picked up the phone. Hello, Ms. Zhu. This is the front desk of the hotel. What can I do for you? Zhu Lingling was puzzled. When we registered, we found some problems with your information. We need you to come down and verify it. Damn it. Are you kidding me? I'm really sorry, but this is our hotel's rule. Sorry to trouble you. Alright, alright. After that, Zhu Lingling hung up the phone and put on her clothes in annoyance. Buiyuan. Stay in your room. Don't go anywhere. Mom, where are you going? Gao Buiyuan looked up at his mother. I'll go down to the hotel lobby to fill in some information. All right. After that, Zhu Lingling opened the door and left. After his mother left, Gao Buiyuan immediately sent Little Bean a video call. Just as Little Bean picked up the video call, Gao Buiyuan suddenly heard a scream from outside the door. Buiyuan. Little Bean said. Shoo. Little Bean, don't talk. I think I heard my mom's voice. Gao Buiyuan felt that something was wrong and wanted to open the door to see what was going on. Then, another voice came from outside the door. Let go of me, you bastard. Help, Gao Buiyuan's heart sank. It was indeed his mother's voice. Little Bean, what should we do? Something happened to my mom outside the door. Buiyuan, don't worry. Look through the peephole first. At her reminder, Gao Buiyuan immediately put his cell phone on the ground and moved a small stool over. Then, he stood on the stool with his feet up and looked through the peephole. After looking carefully, he was frightened. A man wearing a black mask and a black baseball cap was pulling his mother's hair and dragging her into the fire escape. There was no one in the hallway. Maybe someone in the next room heard it but couldn't tell. Gao Buiyuan jumped down in fright and picked up his cell phone. Little Bean, a bad guy is beating my mom. What should I do? No, I have to save her. He was so anxious that he almost cried. When he jumped down, he sprained his ankle but didn't feel any pain. What? Auntie Lingling ran into bad guys. On the other end of the video call, Little Bean was also dumbfounded. Chapter 39-49. Yes, just outside the door. Mom's hair. That guy kept pulling her. Gao Buiyuan was still a kid and didn't speak clearly in a hurry. Little Bean was also anxious. At this moment, Pudding walked up behind Little Bean. Sis, look. What should we do? Auntie Lingling and Buiyuan met a bad guy in the hotel. Let's go find Daddy and save them. Little Bean's hand trembled with fear as she held the cell phone. It's too late. They're too far away. Give me the cell phone. Pudding snatched the cell phone from Little Bean's hand and said to Gao Buiyuan. Buiyuan, don't worry. Listen to me. Find some matches right now. There should be some in the drawer. Then take a piece of paper and light it in the room. Be careful not to hurt yourself. There are smoke detectors in the hotel. As long as there's smoke, the alarm will automatically go off. Okay. I'll go right now. Gao Buiyuan was calm and quick-witted. After hearing Pudding's words, he immediately got up and ran to the drawer. Then he took out the matches and paper and lit them with trembling hands. At that time, his mind was blank, he just did it mechanically. But to his surprise, it really worked. 1 minute later, the whole hotel sounded the fire alarm. At this moment, Zhu Lingling had been dragged to the entrance of the corridor by the man and was about to be dragged into the dark and narrow space. Hearing the alarm on the whole floor, the man seemed to be scared. He suddenly let go of Zhu Lingling and ran down the stairs. There was an obvious bruise on Zhu Lingling's neck. She coughed violently and limped back to the carpet in the corridor. At this moment, Gao Buiyuan opened the door and rushed out. Someone come quickly, save me, save my mother. The hotel staff also arrived at this moment. They immediately called the police. Unexpectedly, Gao Buiyuan was the first police officer to arrive. After receiving the location from his friend, he drove to the hotel. As soon as he entered, he heard the fire alarm. Then the whole hotel was in chaos. Of course, the culprit also took advantage of the chaos to escape. When Gao Ran picked up Zhu Lingling, she buried her head in his chest. She couldn't say a word, but she couldn't. After all, this was the first time she had experienced such a terrifying thing. She was scared silly. I'm sorry, honey. I came late and scared you. Gao Ran blamed himself and lowered his head to kiss Zhu Lingling's forehead. Then, she carried him into the car and went to the hospital. Qin Chu and Huamin drove straight to the hospital. In the ward, she saw Zhu Lingling. It's already so late, and I'm still troubling you. I'm so sorry. Zhu Lingling's voice was a little hoarse. Don't be so courteous with me. You're scaring us to death. Huamin reached out and held Zhu Lingling tightly. Your two little princesses are smart enough to order Buiyuan to sound the fire alarm. Otherwise, I would be a corpse now. Ha. Ba, 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 don't say such unlucky things. Those who survive a great disaster are bound to have good fortune in the future. Huamin comforted her. Pudding and Little Bean also came over and looked at Gao Buiyuan, who was also frightened. Sitting on the sofa in the ward, his small body seemed to be still in a daze. Little Bean ran over and gave Gao Buiyuan a bear hug. Buiyuan, I'm glad you're okay. You're awesome. You did a good job. Only then did Gao Buiyuan raise his head to look at Little Bean, feeling a little better. Little Bean. I was so scared, but after all, he had been wronged, so his eyes were full of tears. Don't cry. I brought you donuts. Before Gao Buiyuan's tears fell, Little Bean stuffed a donut in her hand into his mouth. Pudding couldn't bear to look at the scene and quickly turned her head. Auntie Lingling, did you see the bad guy's face? Pudding asked Zhu Lingling. Chapter 3950. No. He was wearing a black mask the whole time. I was panicking and didn't pay attention to it. Zhu Lingling shook her head, still in shock. I've checked the surveillance footage. I'll definitely find this scum and kill him. Damn it, how dare he bully my wife. Gao Ran was really angry. He didn't like the feeling of his wife being bullied by others. A 5-star hotel shouldn't be so unsafe. Lingling, did someone follow you when you drove out? Huamin asked her. I didn't pay attention to that. Zhu Lingling was a housewife and wasn't very alert. Then, why did you suddenly open the door and go downstairs? The people downstairs told me that there was something wrong with my file and that I had to go downstairs to confirm it. Zhu Lingling tried to recall the situation. Is there something wrong with the hotel? Huamin was surprised. Gao Ran hurriedly said, no. I've checked. The hotel staff didn't call Lingling. I think the suspect pretended to be a hotel employee and called to lure Lingling out. Then we should be glad that he didn't pretend to be a hotel employee to break into the room. After all, Buiyuan was still in the room. Huamin was a little scared at the thought of it. Yeah. Fortunately, my son is fine. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to live. At this point, Zhu Lingling's tears were still dripping down. This incident is weird. I don't think it's a sudden incident. Qin Chu didn't speak for a long time, thinking about the cause and effect of this incident. Anyway, I'll catch that guy. At this moment, Gao Ran's cell phone rang. He turned around and went out to answer the call. Huamin walked to the bedside and chatted with Zhu Lingling for a while. Before leaving, Qin Chu asked Gao Ran about the hotel surveillance footage. Gao Ran said that the hotel did record it. But the figure was too blurry and wearing a hat and mask at night. It was useless. They couldn't catch him with these. On the way home, Huamin thought carefully about his conversation with Zhu Lingling and then told Qin Chu. Honey, we must find the guy who did this to Lingling. Gao Ran and I are looking for him. Gao Ran's method, but I don't think he'll find anything. You can send someone to investigate Qin Yuning. Do you think she has something to do with this incident? Qin Chu was surprised. For some reason, Huamian suddenly mentioned Qin Yuning. I just asked Lingling about what happened tonight. The only thing I think is connected is that Gao Ran went to a dinner party with Qin Yuning and other colleagues. Then Lingling got provoked by the photo and lost her temper with Gao Ran. Then Gao Ran went home and Lingling ran away from home. I don't think it's a coincidence that Lingling was targeted as soon as she checked into the hotel. Logically speaking, Lingling didn't drive a luxurious car and didn't wear many brands. How could she be targeted? So you suspect that woman has something to do with all this? Yes, honey. Start with her. Investigate carefully. I want to catch the person who hurt Lingling. Huamian's expression was calm as she spoke. But in fact, she was in a state of shock. Lingling was her closest friend, and now she was almost hurt. There were deep strangulation marks on her neck and bruises on her wrists. She couldn't take it lying down. How crazy must the person be to hurt the mother and son? Okay. Leave it to me. Qin Chu knew his wife's analysis was always reasonable, so he nodded in agreement. Chapter 39:51. The next morning. Huamin and Qin Chu left together in the car, but they didn't go to the company. Instead, they went back to South Side. When the people at South Side saw Huamin, they were very excited. Vice Director, oh. Vice Director is back. Vice Director, you're about to give birth, right? Where are you giving birth? Come back to South Side, okay? Everyone misses you. As soon as Huamin returned, she was surrounded by doctors and nurses. The bodyguards behind her stared at her nervously, afraid that something would happen to a young lady. I'm back to do something. Everyone, go ahead. Don't worry about me. Huamin smiled and walked towards the DNA testing center. She didn't trust anyone else to do such an important thing. She was afraid that she would miss something. Therefore, Huamin did it herself. She took Jixin's hair and Uncle Jing's hair and carefully did a DNA comparison. When the results came out, she was dumbfounded. Huamin looked at the results with trembling hands. How is this possible? How is this possible? Vice Director, is there anything I can help you with? The appraiser behind her walked over. Help me take a look at the results. Huamin really hoped that she was wrong. The man picked it up and looked at it. He smiled and said, the results are obvious. These two are father and son. This is impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Huamin originally thought that after she got the results, she would be able to expose Uncle Jing's identity at any time. She wanted Jixin and her mother to wake up, but now, the results were different from what she had imagined. Huamin was greatly shocked. Perhaps because she was frightened, she rushed to the bathroom and vomited. Vice Director, are you okay? The assistant nurse was so scared that she kept patting her back. I'm fine. It's a normal pregnancy reaction. You guys go ahead. Vice Director, the obstetrics and gynecology department asked me to ask you if you need to arrange a prenatal checkup. Huamin felt very uncomfortable after vomiting. He waved his hand to show that he didn't want to go. Even when she left South Side, she was still in a daze. Huamin took the test report and went to the company immediately. Madam. Assistant Yang was very happy to see Huamin every day. Where's my husband? President Qin is in a meeting. Do you need me to call him? No need. Let's wait until he's done. Huamin sat on the sofa with a heavy heart. She wasn't even in the mood to drink the warm milk that Yang had prepared for her. When Qin Chu finished his work and came out, he saw Huamin looking a little pale. Honey, are the results out yet? Huamin didn't say anything. Instead, He took out the report with a complicated expression and handed it to Chin Chu. Mr. Chin had studied medicine for many years, so he naturally understood these simple tests. What? They were father and son. How is that possible? Chin Chu was also shocked. Yeah, how ridiculous. Back then, I can guarantee that Uncle Jing was completely dead. His body was badly damaged. When we went to the funeral parlor, we even said goodbye to his body. I'll never forget that scene for the rest of my life. Hubby, how can a dead person come back to life? Isn't it ridiculous? Should we go to the North Mountain Cemetery and see what's inside? No. Uncle Jing has already passed away and should be resting in peace. We can't disturb him because of the conspiracy of the living. Chin Chu wanted to open the coffin and examine the body. Although it had rotted over the years, the bones were still there. Hua Min firmly disagreed. She knew that there was no need to open the coffin. Uncle Jing must be dead. That was the truth. Mian, what do you think now? Chin Chu knew that Hua Min had always been quick-witted. He didn't know how she understood such a ridiculous thing. Chapter 3952. I think, maybe Uncle Jing really has a twin brother. That's not impossible. I'll send someone to investigate Uncle Jing's background. Don't worry. Honey, there's been a lot of trouble recently. I've been feeling uneasy, as if something bad is about to happen. Hua Min leaned her head on Chin Chu's shoulder tiredly. Don't think too much. I'm here for you. Chin Chu kissed her long hair and comforted her. Suddenly, Hua Min screamed. Chin Chu was scared out of his wits. He hugged her tightly. Honey, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Your son is moving. Hua Min had gotten used to the fetal movement in the past few months, but this was the first time she felt such a big movement. It felt as if there was a force in her stomach that was fiercely affecting her entire body. I wanted to say, Mommy, don't be afraid. I'm here for you. Mr. Chin mimicked his son's tone and teased Hua Min. Finally, she wasn't so nervous anymore and smiled in relief. Could it be that this brat is also a bootlicker like his second sister? It's hard to say. Chin Chu's lips curled up slightly. Then our family is going to be lively. Mian, I've made an appointment with a designer. He'll come over later to draw for you. You should order a few outfits for our wedding. Otherwise, you won't have time when you give birth and are in confinement. Chin Chu actually wanted to distract Hua Min so that she wouldn't be so nervous. Well, that's good too. I'll meet her later. This trick was indeed useful. The wedding was something that both of them were looking forward to. They had been married for a few years and almost had 3 children. However, they had always lacked a grand wedding. Back then, Hua Min insisted on keeping their marriage a secret, which wronged Mr. Chin. Now, it was finally time to clear Mr. Chin's name. As for the wedding date, the two of them planned to wait until Hua Min was out of confinement. However, some of the details of the wedding and the custom-made items had to be prepared in advance. Hua Min had originally planned to use the things he had ordered 3 years ago. However, Chin Chu refused. He said that it was outdated and that she would feel wronged. Just like that, the two of them continued to research in secret without telling anyone. Qi Ning knew about it by accident, so she mentioned it that day and made Suyu sad for a long time. It was true that some people were happy while others were sad. House of Sicily Cece's parents were very happy to see their daughter back. They cooked delicious food for their daughter every day. Rick, on the other hand, had something to do and was about to leave. Go and do your work. Leave Cece to us, Cece's father said in the tone of an elder. Rick, on the other hand, was even more serious as he bowed to the two elders. Then I'll leave Cece in your care. Cece snickered. She had known him for a long time, but this was the first time she had seen him so well behaved. Sure enough, he had improved after becoming a husband and father. Be a good girl at home and take care of the baby, Rick reminded Cece worriedly. Then when will you be back? Soon. No more than a week. A week. That's a long time. Then you have to call me every day, Cece said coquettishly. Okay. You have to bring gifts for me and the baby when you come back. Okay. Then can you leave me some pocket money before you leave? I can't always eat my parents' food, right? Cece was joking on purpose. She didn't want Rick to leave, so she deliberately tried to find something to talk about and didn't want him to leave. Unexpectedly, Rick took out a black gold card from his pocket and put it in her hand. Then, he said 3 words in a domineering tone. Chapter 39:53. Spend as much as you want. Cece knew that Rick was the kind of person who would give away his cards at the slightest disagreement. Back in the States, Rick often gave Cece a bunch of cards. But in a foreign country, Cece wasn't used to being surrounded by people every time she went out. Over time, Cece became too lazy to go out and became a homebody. Now that they were back in China, Mr. Rick was still the same. This made Cece's heart melt. Honey, do you have any other tricks? Rick tilted his head and thought for a moment. Then I'll leave you another one. If you suddenly want to buy a house or something, 5 million yuan might not be enough. Then, Rick took out a shiny blue card and put it in Cece's hand. There's 5 million yuan there and 10 million yuan here. Use it first. I'll be back in a week. If it's not enough, borrow it from Chin Chu. I'll pay you back when I come back. Then, Rick turned Cece's head, kissed her, and turned to leave. The 3 people in Cece's family were dumbfounded. Cece's mom, what did my son-in-law just say? Cece's dad, I don't think I heard him clearly. Cece. 5 minutes later, Cece took a picture of the 2 cards and posted it on her WeChat friend circle. Mr. Rick is going on a business trip for a week. He was afraid that I wouldn't have enough, so he left 2 cards. Xin, that's a great way to torture single people. Huamin, yeah, that's like Rick's style. Nia Lingxian, sis, you're home. Are mom and dad okay? The rest of the comments were made by Cece's own friends. Of course, everyone was envious and jealous of Cece. Rick was the kind of person who didn't say anything, but he would act immediately. He was in a hurry to leave because he wanted to see Lu Yen. With Chin Chu's recommendation, Lu Yen had agreed to do Rick a favor and accept his job. That psycho Caslius was afraid of nothing but Lu Yen. What was Lu Yen afraid of? She agreed easily. Lu Yen was afraid of her sister. Yes, Lu Yen was most afraid of her sister being sad or in danger. After having her sister, she felt like her sister was the best sister in the world and no one could compare to her. Evening, Chin Chu was about to get off work when he received a call. Then, he said a few words and hung up. Honey, ask the bodyguard and driver to send you home later. What about you? Huamin looked at him. I still have some things to do. I'll go with you. Mian. Chin Chu didn't know what to say. You must have caught the person who attacked Lingling, right? Sure enough, they were husband and wife. Their tacit understanding was really high. Knowing that he couldn't hide it from Huamin, Chin Chu nodded. Yes, I just caught it. Where is he? In an abandoned factory in the middle of nowhere. I'll go with you. Honey. I'm going there for an interrogation. There might be some violent scenes, Chin Chu was worried that Huamin, who was pregnant, wouldn't be able to take it. "Hubby, let me tell you something. I'm a doctor. I'm not even afraid of dead bodies and dissections. Why would I be afraid of bloody scenes? All right." In the end, Mr. Chin couldn't win against Huamin. He nodded and took her to the middle of nowhere. In an abandoned factory, Huamin saw the man. Chin Chu's subordinates were indeed fast. It had only been a day, but they had already caught the man. The man looked very young and was wearing a pair of jeans. There was a black jacket on top of it. It was the kind of jacket of an inferior brand. At first glance, one could tell that it was the kind sold at a stall for 100 yuan. It was obvious that he was not a rich person. His appearance was also very ordinary. His small eyes were slightly swollen, and his face looked cold. When they caught him, he was still wearing a baseball cap. It was a brand that was very popular recently. It was the favorite style of a certain Korean male star. When Huamin and Chin Chu walked in, the man slowly raised his head. Chapter 39:54. Chin Chu first pulled a chair over, then took out a white handkerchief and laid it out. After letting Huamin sit down, he looked at the man and said, "Zhang Linji, right? Who are you?" "You should know why we caught you," Chin Chu said. "I don't know." "Do you know that this is kidnapping?" "It's against the law," the man shouted. "Ha, kid, don't talk to me about breaking the law. If we're talking about breaking the law, what you did last night was more serious." "I don't know what you're talking about." Hearing Chin Chu's words, the man lowered his head and closed his eyes, pretending not to know. "Tell me, who told you to do this? Do you know who you were dragging yesterday?" Chin Chu said slowly. The kid actually didn't say anything. Huamin suddenly stood up. Chin Chu reached out to stop her, but she said in a low voice, "Hubby, I know what I'm doing." With that, Huamin walked over. The man was tied to the chair and couldn't move his limbs. He probably didn't pose much of a threat to Huamin. "You should know that the person last night is the wife of the city police chief, right?" Huamin asked him. The kid still refused to say anything. It seemed like he was going to play dead until the end. "Then do you know why she told you to do that?" "She probably didn't tell you that. She coveted someone else's husband and was jealous of their good relationship. She probably didn't tell you that she was a shameless mistress." "No, she can't be considered a mistress because the man of the house doesn't even care about her. I can only say that she's a schemer who can't see the light of day." "You're lying." "She's not." Perhaps he couldn't take it anymore after hearing Huamin's provocation. So he still opened his mouth. Chin Chu shook his head helplessly and smiled. Even if his wife was pregnant, it didn't affect her brain. She could still force the kid to admit it with one sentence. "Hee, she's not." "Then why were you turned into a kidnapper?" "She didn't use me. She did it willingly. That woman isn't a good person. She always makes things difficult for me." He almost blurted out the name. Only then did the man realize that he had almost been fooled. She raised her head and spat at Huamian fiercely. "Bah! You so-called upper-class people are all filthy to the extreme. Every one of you who dies is one less." She could tell that this man hated the rich. After Huamin was spat out, Chin Chu was furious and directly made a hand gesture. The two thugs behind him punched and kicked the man. Huamin did not stop him. People like him needed to suffer a little. Huamin took the tissue from Chin Chu and wiped off the saliva on his body. Then, she turned back to stare at him and said, "You like her, don't you? You're so smitten by her that you believe everything she says." "Shut up. Shut up." The man refused to admit it, but he was very agitated. I also want to know why you're so smitten by Chen Yuning. Why are you risking your life for her? Huamin knew that with Chen Yuning's wealth, she didn't have the money to hire gangsters. She could only rely on her beauty and cleverness to make use of the big idiots who pursued her and had a crush on her. Needless to say, this Zhang Lingji must be one of them. Hee hee. It seems you admit it. Chen Yuning is a vicious woman. I underestimated her. She's really capable. Huamin regretted that he had underestimated her and didn't remind Lingling of her safety. He almost fell into her trap. Chapter 3955. Don't talk about Yuning like that. She's the victim. Zhu Lingling's the bitch. She wondered how Chen Yuning told this cannon fodder that she was the victim. She described Zhu Lingling as a woman who committed all kinds of evil deeds, which aroused the hatred of men. With a few words, Huamin successfully made the man talk about Chen Yuning. He had to admit that, however, he had just called Zhu Lingling a bitch. Huamin didn't like the words. She slapped him in the face with a backhand, and her hand went numb. It was obvious how hard she had slapped him. The man froze when he was slapped, not expecting the pregnant woman to hit him. You bullied my best friend. You'll end up in a miserable state. Huamin curled his lips coldly. Honey, Huamin walked to Qin Chu's side. I'll keep him alive. I won't kill him. Qin Chu thought Huamin told him to show mercy. After all, she was pregnant and needed to accumulate good karma for the baby. But Huamin said, keep him away from me. Don't let me see him again. With his IQ, he'll be trouble for us in the future. After experiencing so many things, Huamin had figured out one thing. Just like Jian Tong, Mo Shui and Song Yishe. He showed mercy to them, but they didn't appreciate it. In turn, they almost got his family into trouble. So, Huamin decided that he wouldn't be soft-hearted anymore. Take him away tonight. Send him to the Thai smuggler and sell him to Africa. Qin Chu glanced at the man. Since he had found out that he was related to Chen Yuning, he wouldn't let him go. It was impossible for him to let him go. Letting him go would be a disaster. The man was dragged away by Qin Chu's subordinates. Sitting in the car, Qin Chu glanced at Huamin. Honey, what should we do with that woman? Leave it to me. This time, Huamin wanted to stand up for her best friend. Clean up the house. Clean up those bitches who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. All right. Qin Chu knew that Huamin always had a sense of propriety, so he didn't need to explain too much. From Zhang Lingji's tone, Huamin knew that Chen Yuning instigated Zhang Lingji to follow and kidnap Zhu Lingling. They didn't plan to keep her alive. Chen Yuning had just graduated from college and was only 25 years old. He was so young, but his heart was so vicious. It was true that one could not judge a book by its cover. The next morning Huamin went to see Chen Yuning in her family's rice noodle shop. It was a weekend. Chen Yuning didn't go to work and helped out at home. Seeing Huamin come, the two elders were still very polite, because they recognized him as the person who came to deliver the things. Chen Yuning, on the other hand, looked uneasy. She had been calling Zhang Lingji since last night but couldn't get through. She was afraid that he would be arrested and interrogated by the police. Mrs. Qin, seeing Huamin come to eat rice noodle, Chen Yuning said coldly. Good. You still remember me, how can I not remember you? Mrs. Qin is so famous. Chen Yuning smiled brightly, not looking nervous at all. Good. Sit down. Let's talk. But I'm busy and don't have time to chat with Mrs. Qin. Chen Yuning refused to chat with Huamin. She knew that this was a woman with a high IQ. If she said too much, she might give herself away. You don't have a choice. Do you want me to tell your parents about your glorious deeds of seducing a man in the Municipal Public Security Bureau? Ha! Huamin sipped on his tea and said slowly. Chen Yuning's expression changed drastically. Chapter 3956. Huamin, don't slander me. You know very well whether I'm slandering you or not. I can show you the evidence at any time. The photos you secretly took, the people who followed Zhu Lingling. By the way, don't you wonder where your good pawn, Zhang Linji, is? At the mention of Zhang Linji, Chen Yuning's face darkened. What? You don't dare to admit it. Don't you want to hear what he said to me? Seeing Chen Yuning's darkened face, Huamin was delighted. 3 seconds. Yes, it only took him 3 seconds. Chen Yuning smiled slightly. Mrs. Qin, I'm afraid you're mistaken. I don't know this Zhang Linji you're talking about. You don't admit it. You're a policewoman with strong anti-reconnaissance skills. But since you're a policewoman, you must have left some evidence, right? Mrs. Qin, you'd better find the evidence and confront me with it. Chen Yuning seemed to be arrogant. Yes, she was thoughtful enough to stay calm and not be scared out of her wits by Huamin's words. Instead, her words and attitude were full of provocation. It seems you won't admit it and don't think you're wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I admit it? Hee hee. It's funny. Then, Chen Yuning turned to wipe the table and ignored Huamin. She seemed to have thought about it. If Huamian said something to her parents, she would have a way to explain and turn the situation around. She might have already found an excuse. Unfortunately, Huamin didn't say anything in the end and left with his men. Chen Yuning was smug, thinking that even someone as smart as Huamin couldn't do anything to her. But she was wrong. In fact, Huamin didn't come to her to denounce her. He just wanted to test her attitude. If her attitude was sincere enough and she still had a heart of remorse, he would still be lenient and go easy on her. But now, without a doubt, she was so ruthless at such a young age that she could even abandon a pawn she used. If this woman was kept alive, it would be a disaster. After getting into the car, Huamin did not call Qin Chu. This was because she subconsciously felt that her husband was an entrepreneur after all. It would be bad if his subordinates were negligent and left any evidence that could be used against him. So this time, she called Qiao Fei. Yes, Huamin had called Qiao Fei. A long time ago, when Qiao Fei and Lu Yan came here, Huamin asked for her number in private. Because Qiao Fei kept a low profile, not many people paid attention to him internationally. Therefore, calling Qiao Fei was much safer than calling Lu Yan. When Qiao Fei received the call, he thought he was sleepwalking. Is this a domestic number? He picked it up curiously. Hello. Fei. It was the first time Huamin had called Qiao Fei, so he didn't know what to say. Sister Mian. Qiao Fei wasn't sure. It's me. Qiao Fei was speechless again. He glanced at Lu Yan, who was not far away. Lu Yan was using her laptop to access her online bank account when she heard the name, Sister Mian. She immediately put down her work and looked over. She didn't seem to believe that her sister was calling Qiao Fei. Xiao Fei, I have something that I need your help with. I know that you have subordinates in the country. No problem. Just tell me what to do, Qiao Fei agreed without hesitation. Don't tell Yan. I don't want her to be distracted. Huamin reminded him. Chapter 3957. Sis, why didn't you tell me? The domineering Lu Yan had dashed over and snatched the phone from his hand. Huamin, sis, what's up? Yan. You're here, too. Of course. I'm with Psycho Chiao 24/7. Then she realized her words were too explicit, so she hurried to explain, Psycho Chiao has been eating and drinking at my place all day and won't leave. Xiao Fei only smiled faintly and didn't speak. Huamin's tone turned doting. I knew you'd make a big deal out of it with your short temper, so I wanted to say hello to Fei. I'll take care of his business. Sis, don't waste my time. What's up? It was rare for her sister to take care of something, so Lu Yan rubbed her hands, looking forward to doing something big for her sister. It's nothing. There's someone I don't want to see. But you know I'm pregnant and don't want to kill her. You want to make her beg for death, right? Lu Yan understood in 1 second. Huamin, I just want her to leave and stop harassing my friends. It was indeed Huamin's wish. After Chen Yuning was transferred away, she still had feelings for Gao Ran. Not only that, she even dared to lay hands on Lingling. He didn't dare to imagine what would happen if something really happened that day. So, Huamin hated Chen Yuning, or else he wouldn't have called Xiao Fei. Got it. Sis, give me her name. Just her name. Her company, her home address, and her picture. Before Huamin could finish, Lu Yan smiled. I don't need those. She's in the same city as you, right? Just tell me the name. What if she has the same name? Don't get the wrong person. Huamin was still worried. Sis, I'm a top-notch mercenary. I'm at the level of a super agent. I'm not a good-for-nothing like you think I am. People are willing to pay hundreds of millions to hire me. I'm not here to play hide-and-seek. Lu Yan thought her sister's worries were unnecessary. Yes, Lu Yan's supercomputer was so powerful that all she had to do was type in a name and locate the city she was in, and all her information would pop up. Even if they had the same name, Lu Yan had ways to filter them out in a minute. Okay. Her name is Chen Yuning. Okay. Yan, don't kill her. Just make sure she can't come back and do evil. I know. Sis, it's a piece of cake. After hanging up, Lu Yan went back to her computer and forgot about the transfer. He directly checked Chen Yuning's information. This woman looks coquettish. No wonder such a gentle person like my sister can't tolerate her. Lu Yan glanced at Xiao Fei. Sis told me not to kill him. Do you have any good ideas? Sell her to Africa. Xiao Fei didn't even think about it. No. Africa is boring. It's too peaceful. I'll send her to the Golden Triangle. You want to send her to the Golden Triangle? Xiao Fei glanced at her. Yeah. It's so exciting. What if she dies? If she dies, it's not my fault. My sister told me to get rid of her, and I didn't kill her. But I'm not obligated to protect her, right? Lu Yan was, after all, a vicious gangster. She dared to do what her sister didn't dare to do. It was said that the men in the Golden Triangle didn't have a tomorrow, but the women in the Golden Triangle didn't even have a day today. It was a hell on earth where poppies, pornography, and slaughter were all mixed together. Lu Yan issued an order in the headquarters. Her subordinates in Yunnan immediately carried out the order. In less than 12 hours, Chen Yuning disappeared mysteriously. Hearing the news from Gao Ran on the phone, Qin Chu glanced at Huamin, who was reading a newspaper on the couch. Honey, did you do this to Chen Yuning? Qin Chu thought Huamin had gotten rid of the bitch quietly. Chapter 3958. It wasn't me, Huamin said matter-of-factly. Qin Chu was confused. It didn't make sense. Huamin's next words froze Mr. Qin again, but I told Yen about it and she took care of it for me. I'm smart, right? Huamin asked with a mischievous smile. Qin Chu put his hand on his forehead, sweating. Honey, you really know how to waste resources. You don't need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. You think Lu Yan is a human trafficker? Qin Chu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I just think it's a piece of cake for her. Okay, I understand. I'll tell Gao. After all, my sister-in-law helped him take care of a big problem. Should he treat us to a big meal when he's free? I want to eat crab. Huamin hadn't eaten seafood in a long time. So, he was drooling. Mr. Qin was very strict about this. You can't eat it until after the baby is born. Humph. Huamin pouted. Just then, someone knocked on the door of the president's office. Come in. Qin Chu looked up at the door. Bella walked in carefully in the company's uniform suit. Sister Mian, President Qin. That's a weird name. Huamin smiled. It's easier to call you President Qin in the company. Bella was a bit embarrassed. Sit down. We're both here. Tell us about him. Huamin patted the seat beside him and asked Bella to sit down. Bella was still a bit reserved and sat beside Huamin obediently. Don't be nervous. Tell us. Huamin patted Bella's hand gently. Sister Mian, he looks normal. It's just that his memory is a bit blurry and he can't remember some things. But Mom will remind him. He doesn't talk much and rarely interacts with me and Jixin. Most of the time, he goes out with Mom to buy groceries and cook or visit the old neighbors. Everything is normal. Jixin doesn't know, right? You didn't tell him, did you? No, Jixin has a short temper. I'm afraid that if I tell him, he'll enrich him. Good job. Don't tell Jixin yet, just keep watching. Sister Mian, is he dangerous? Will he hurt our family? Will he hurt Mom? Mom is very important to us. I really don't want anything to happen to her. Bella's IQ was quite high. She understood that Qin Chu and Huamin trusted her and gave her the mission. She had a heavy responsibility, so she had to do it carefully. I don't know what his goal is yet, but he definitely isn't Uncle Jing. I'm 100% sure of that. Huamin still felt scared when she remembered the horrifying result of the DNA test that day. Although she didn't know what had happened, she was sure that the man wasn't Uncle Jing. Besides, the man's story was full of loopholes. He made up a story about time travel to another country to fool Jixin and Mom. Jixin and Mom were easily fooled because they loved the dead Jingde very much. It wasn't that Huamian didn't love Uncle Jing. She had deep feelings for him, but she had to be rational at all times. Not to mention that Jingde had come back to life. Even if anyone around her had come back to life, she would investigate this matter carefully. Based on the fact that the man was able to avoid all the cameras in the beginning, Mian knew that he was here for a reason. But she didn't know what his real purpose was. By the way, Sister Mian, there's one more thing. I don't know if it's strange or not, but I forgot to tell you. Bella suddenly remembered something. Then I'll treat you to a bath. Han Yueyao, do you want a beating? Han Yueyao thought it was a realm for him to say that he wanted to sleep with her and treat her to a bath. Ha! You misunderstood me again. I just want to treat you to a bath, Yuan Bo, don't joke with me. If you can be my partner, do it. If you can't, break up, or go to your agency and ask for a replacement. She didn't know if this guy was serious or joking, but her attitude was firm. Sleep with him? No way. Yao Yao, what if I want to be your girlfriend? Yuan Bo asked, unwilling to give up. Chapter 3960. Han Huayao immediately replied, "You're trying to cheat me in the name of dating, right?" Yuan Bo, okay. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep now. Han Huayao didn't want to talk too much with Yuan Bo because she thought it was meaningless. No matter how handsome, rich, or fans Yuan Bo had, she didn't like him. So, whether he was sincere or not, she wouldn't fall for his tricks. In fact, Han Huayao was sleepy, but she wanted to talk to Su Yu. But she didn't want to send a WeChat message to Su Yu. After a long time, she still didn't get an order from her boss. Finally, she opened Weibo and sent a private message to Su Yu's account. "Boss Su, I'll try my best tomorrow. Get the Bugatti Veyron ready." Ha. After leaving the message, she thought Su Yu wouldn't see it since he rarely went on Weibo. But to her surprise, he had read it 1 minute after she sent the message. Han Huayao began to look forward to it again, but to her disappointment, Su Yu didn't reply to her. In fact, besides Su Yu himself, the public relations department of the company would also log into Su Yu's Weibo. Occasionally, she would post positive posts on Weibo for Su Yu to gain the favor of his fans. So, when his colleagues saw these comments, they wouldn't reply but would tell their boss everything. Of course, when Su Yu found out, it would be the next day. Meanwhile, Su Yu was drinking with Shen Mingxi. After Shen Mingxi remarried Wei Ying, he did a lot of charity and public service. He seemed to believe in karma. He even donated 20 million yuan anonymously to Huamin's Mian Foundation. Of course, although the Wei family still didn't like him, they treated him much better than before. "Lord Su, thank you for your generosity last time and helping me through a difficult time. Here's a toast to you." Shen Mingxi raised his glass. "Let's not talk about such things. We've known each other for so many years, we're brothers." Su Yu held the wine glass and smiled. "There are good and bad brothers as well. I'm very glad that I have a true brother, who can withstand the test." "Alright, stop being so sentimental. Now that you've remarried, everything will be fine." "Oh right, that child, is he going to school?" Shen Mingxi knew that Su Yu was asking about Hui Yanyan's daughter. "Yes, she went to the capital to study. She lives on campus. If you ask me, she might be a disaster if you keep her. You shouldn't keep her. You can even send her to the orphanage." "I can't do it. I've been with her for a long time, and I've developed feelings for her. I really can't do it." Shen Mingxi poured himself another cup of wine and drank it. "Old Shen, you have to change your temper in the future. The business world is heartless. Don't be so heartless. In the end, you are the one who will suffer. Haven't you suffered enough from Hui Yanyan?" "That's right. I've learned my lesson this time. But, it's a good thing that Ying forgave me. It's not easy for Wei Ying either. In order to be with you, she almost offended her entire family. You have to treat her well." "I will. Lord Su. When will you think about your own affairs?" Shen Mingxi's sudden question made Su Yu smile. "Who am I? I'm so cool. I'll get drunk when I'm alone." Su Yu joked cheerfully and even played the popular microphone. "How are you and that female artist in your company? I've seen the media talking about you too. Do you have a chance?" Shen Mingxi remembered that in the last few issues of the Gossip Weekly, Su Yu's company had been promoting a beautiful girl. Chapter 3961. There's no chance. Do you believe the media's hype? Then what are you going to do? After Shen Mingxi's matter was settled, he was actually very worried about Su Yu's marriage. In the blink of an eye, a few years had passed, the famous tycoons in the industry were all married and had partners. There were a few high-profile entrepreneurs who had even divorced twice. However, Su Yu was still single. It's fine. It's good to be free. Being alone is good. Su Yu's mentality was already very good. He wanted to let nature take its course. Lord Su, I know some friends. They have a lot of relatives and friends. They're all single socialites. They're very outstanding in all aspects. Do you want? Before Shen Mingxi could finish his sentence, Su Yu interrupted him. No need. There's really no need to force this. It's good this way. I know you're doing this for my own good, but it's not a bad thing for me. Maybe, my fate hasn't arrived yet. Obviously, Su Yu didn't want to talk about this. But, come, bro, let's drink. Let's not talk about this. Su Yu's words shut Shen Mingxi up. He was too embarrassed to bring up the topic of introducing a girlfriend to him. When the two of them finished drinking, it was already late at night. Shen Mingxi's driver picked him up and they returned to the villa. And drove to buy sobering medicine. Su Yu waited at the door for a while. The early winter in the north was already very cold. At night, the water on the road would freeze. It was bone-chilling. Su Yu was wearing a light-colored Versace jacket. In the cold night, his lonely figure looked even lonelier. The entrance was originally to prevent a famous director from having an affair, but they accidentally took a photo of Su Yu. An hour later, Su Yu was on Weibo's trending list. The title was, Su Yu on the street late at night. If one clicked on it, they would see Su Yu's photo. He lowered his head, holding a lighter in one hand and a cigarette in the other. He looked at the side of the road, feeling a little lost and lonely. It was so late at night, but the angle was still very good. Su Yu's good looks would always be a hot topic for his wife fans. Then, Su Yu's Weibo was taken over. Many of Su Yu's fans felt sorry for their idol. Most of the comments below were of the same opinion: take Su Yu away. We won't do anything to create hype. Thank you. Lord Su, don't cry. You still have us. The one who praised me was Su Yu's wife. Lord Su, I think the new female artist in your company is quite good. Why don't you try with her? Ha ha ha. Lord Su, are you planning to keep your chastity for Dr. Hua for the rest of your life? Su Yu, I love you. Marry me, marry me. Su Yu hadn't gotten married for so long and hadn't found a girlfriend. He was probably gay, right? Occasionally, some anti-fans would say something, but they would be scolded like a sieve. When An drove back to pick up Su Yu still didn't know what had happened. When some friends in the industry sent him WeChat messages, he knew he was on the hot search list again. Su Yu had no choice but to log into Weibo and look at it. Then, he smiled and didn't want to care about these boring things. Suddenly, he saw Han Yueyao's message. So, he replied, "Good luck tomorrow." He thought Han Yueyao was asleep at this time, but to his surprise, she immediately replied, "President Su, how much did you spend to buy this hot search list?" Get lost. Do I need to buy it? I'm popular wherever I stand. Han Yueyao smiled. Then she looked at Su Yu's lonely photo and felt sour in her heart. She typed word by word in the private message box, "Su Yu, from now on, I'll protect you. I, Han Yueyao, will protect you." Chapter 3962. Perhaps people would have emotions late at night that they didn't have during the day. Han Yueyao didn't know why, but she just couldn't bear to see Su Yu's lonely back. That was why he was so emotional that he typed out this message. Then, like an extremely nervous child, she clenched her fists tightly. She could even hear her little heart pounding. Was she really going to confess to Su Yu? If she said it, Su Yu would be in a difficult position and she would be embarrassed too, right? She struggled for a full minute, and the changes in her mind were very exciting. Finally, she deleted the words she typed bit by bit. She was terrified. Yes, the fact that she liked Su Yu was a secret she kept to herself. She didn't even want Su Yu to know. She just wanted to keep it in her heart. It was said that Su Yu had no desire for Huamin and only loved him sincerely. So did she. She was willing to be like Su Yu. She would only keep this man in her heart and love him silently without asking for any response. Even if he would never know, but she would protect Su Yu with her actions. A good person like Su Yu shouldn't be mocked by others. Han Yueyao felt that this era was despicable. A man like Yuan Bo, who kept changing women, was unfaithful and irresponsible, had many girls mindlessly chasing after him. But a prince charming like Su Yu was misunderstood as gay and had a biological problem. She couldn't agree with such a twisted worldview. In the end, she deleted all the words and replaced them with the most ordinary sentence, "Good night, Boss Su." Seeing this, Su Yu smiled. He also replied to Han Yueyao with 2 words, "Good night." In the darkness, Su Yu had that terrifying dream again. He was never a timid person, but facing such a dream, he was really scared, extremely scared. Su Yu, don't you love her very much? Then let's see if she's worthy of your love. Ha ha ha. In mid-air, a woman's sharp laughter rang in his ears. It made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Not far away in the fog, a lonely and thin figure slowly walked over. Mian. Su Yu muttered to himself. He saw Huamin walking towards him step by step. Mian, don't come, I beg you. Don't come, it's a trap, Su Yu roared loudly in his dream. His voice was filled with grief. Then, he heard gunshots coming from the forest. Huamin slowly fell to the ground in front of him. A beautiful red flower bloomed on her chest. Mian, don't. Once again, Su Yu woke up from his dream and touched the corners of his eyes. There were tears. President Su, what's the matter? Shaowen was a light sleeper. When he heard Su Yu shout, he immediately ran in. I'm fine. Su Yu's voice sounded weak and feeble. Did you have a nightmare again? Yeah, Su Yu replied and then panted heavily, as if he couldn't calm down. Is it still that nightmare? And asked carefully. It seemed that in the past month, it had happened 3 times. Yes, this was the 3rd time. Su Yu had the same nightmare. He dreamed that Huamin died in front of him. To Su Yu, the scariest thing was that something had happened to Huamin. Therefore, this nightmare had been haunting him, causing him to be in deep pain. President Su, should we find a master who knows divination? I think you haven't been in a good state recently. And knew that he would definitely be scolded if he said it out loud, but he still suggested that Su Yu find a powerful master for divination. Why did he keep having the same dream? It sounded very strange. Chapter 3963. Hearing En's words, Su Yu chuckled. Don't worry about me. It's just a dream. If the paparazzi take a picture of me, I'll be on the hot search list again. I've had enough. Seeing Su Yu's attitude, and didn't try to persuade him. After the nightmare, Su Yu was no longer sleepy. He got up, took out a can of iced Coke from the living room, and turned on the TV to kill time. The next day, it was the 3rd round of Han Yueyao's live stream. If she didn't perform well this time, she would be eliminated. So, the viewership was very high this time because Han Yueyao's partner was a popular celebrity with tens of millions of fans. Suyu's team had put in a lot of effort. They were afraid that the girl's foot hadn't recovered yet and couldn't bear the pressure. So, according to Suyu's plan, the choreographer communicated with Yuanbo's team. The choreographed dance for them was more like a stage play. It was a dance with a plot and story, not a dance itself. In this way, they didn't have to dance all the time, and the rhythm wasn't so fast. Yuanbo had acted in many shows and had a foundation. Han Yueyao was a newcomer, so everyone was worried that she wouldn't get into the role and would feel awkward. The live stream attracted everyone's attention. In Qin Chu's office, Hua Min even asked Yang for a tablet and put on his headphones to watch the live stream. It turned out that Han Yueyao was very hardworking. She was very into the role. The result was unknown. They defeated another pair of contestants and successfully advanced to the next round. On the stage, the host asked Han Yueyao, "Now, do you have anything to say to the audience?" Han Yueyao wasn't as excited as the newcomer. She just calmly replied, "I don't expect sudden good luck. I just hope that all my efforts will pay off." Then, thunderous applause came from the audience. The host asked Yuanbo, "Do you have anything to say to the audience?" Yuanbo suddenly glanced at Han Yueyao and said, "I want to pursue Han Yueyao." This sentence caused everyone to burst into laughter. Everyone thought that this was a joke. Therefore, Yuanbo's fans started to stir up trouble after they left the backstage. Some fans of Yuanbo thought Han Yueyao got the promotion with Yuanbo's help. Now, she wanted to use Yuanbo to create hype. They even cursed Han Yueyao's company for being disgusting and despicable. Han Yueyao's agent stomped her feet in anger. Are these fans blind? It was clearly that kid who confessed on stage and was rejected. Now they're complaining that we're trying to hype things up. What a joke. It's fine, who asked me to not be as famous as him? She didn't want to pay attention to the rumors. She was in a good mood because she had made it to the next round. She had made Suyu proud. When she was about to leave after removing her makeup, Yuanbo stopped her. "Yao Yao, let's eat together." "No, I have to go back to the company." Han Yueyao declined with a smile and got into the minivan with the team. "TSK, TSK. Little girl, I'll coax you into bed sooner or later." Yuanbo grew braver as he fought. Entrance of Imperial Star surrounded by a large group of fans. Han Yueyao didn't notice when she got out of the car and was hit by a rotten egg. Shameless vixen, you use Yuanbo to create hype. Get out of the entertainment industry. Scheming bitch. Yeah, scheming bitch, get out. Yuanbo won't date you. It turned out that some crazy fans of Yuanbo had surrounded Han Yueyao. Feeling conflicted, Han Yueyao reached out to touch the sticky egg and bit her lip. Before she could speak, she heard a voice behind her. "Little bastard, how dare you bully our artist in front of Imperial Star? Do you think I'm a decoration?" Suyu had just arrived at the company and saw Han Yueyao being bullied from a distance. Chapter 3964. Han Yueyao didn't expect Suyu to appear at this time. He appeared at the right time. President Su, when Han Yueyao's team saw Suyu, they were naturally respectful. These fans didn't recognize him and didn't have time to react. Suyu glanced at Han Yueyao, who was in a sorry state. Then, he looked at the girl who threw the egg at Han Yueyao. Then, Suyu walked over and picked up the egg in the girl's hand. He threw it at the girl's face. Wah! Perhaps the little girl felt that everything had happened too suddenly, so she started crying. Suyu didn't stop. He picked up another egg and threw it at the girl's head. See, when others throw it at you, you cry like a ghost. When you use this to hurt others, why don't you think about the harm you'll bring to others? Suyu lectured casually. Hey, who are you? Why do you care about us? There seemed to be some irrational fans who weren't convinced. Suyu picked up the egg and weighed it in his hand. They were so scared that they didn't dare to take another step forward. I'm the boss of this company, so I will protect my employees. You little brats, leave quickly, or I'll call the police and arrest you all. You'll be obedient after you're sent to the police station. You're still young, yet you're still chasing after celebrities. Are you so good to your parents? Suyu's tone was like that of an elder. The tone he used to lecture the younger generation. Han Yueyao felt a warmth in her heart. When President Su stood up for her, he looked so charming and manly. After being lectured by Suyu, the children were so scared that they quickly left. Suyu took the tissue from En and wiped Han Yueao's hair that was dipped in the egg. President Su, I. Han Yueyao bit her lip shyly. You're a jerk. Aren't you always good at arguing with me? Why didn't you fight back when you met those troublemakers? Are you stupid? I did it to protect our company's image, she explained. Our company hasn't had much of an image these past few years. Remember this, if people don't mess with us, we won't mess with them. If people mess with us, I'll make them throw up the food I bought for them. Young Master Su once again invented a golden sentence. And almost laughed out loud behind him. Okay. I'll remember what you said. Ha. Don't freeze me when the media reports that I had a fight with my fans. Han Yueyao chuckled. Suyu glanced at her and said slowly, there's only one way I can freeze you, and that's if you lose a fight with your fans, ha ha ha. Don't worry. I won't lose. I'm good at catfights. Han Yueyao was in a good mood. Suyu was probably the only boss in the world who had no moral integrity and bad morals. Alright, stop talking nonsense. Follow me. Suyu waved his hand and asked Han Yueyao to follow him in. Han Yueyao followed behind Suyu like a little tail. The manager and assistant looked at each other. Their gazes were full of meaning. They seemed to want to say that President Su treated Han Yueyao differently. In the underground parking lot of Imperial Star, Han Yueyao was dumbfounded when she saw the orange Bugatti Veyron. Boss Su, don't you like small animals? I said that if you win, I'll give you one. Damn. I really have one. Don't scare me. I have a weak heart. Han Yueyao was so shocked that she almost peed her pants. A Bugatti Veyron worth 25 million yuan. Was Suyu joking? Chapter 3965. You have a driver's license, right? Suyu asked Han Yueyao directly. Yes, she must have had time to get her driver's license, but she didn't buy a car because she was poor. So, she didn't have the chance to drive a car. She had thought that if she could stay at Imperial Star and earn some money, she could buy a Buick or something. After all, she was a newcomer and didn't have a high salary. Suyu gave her a Bugatti Veyron, which was beyond Han Yueao's limit. Her bet with Suyu was actually a joke. It was just because she wanted to talk to Suyu and joke around. But the boss took it seriously. Go and try it. Suyu threw the car keys into the air. Han Yueyao caught it. Boss Su, what? Suyu tilted his head to look at her and raised his eyebrows. I don't dare to take it, Han Yueyao said loudly, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Su Yu, can you be a little more promising, Han Yueyao? Poverty has limited my imagination. After all, I'm from the poor. I don't dare to ask for something too expensive. I think the company can give me a Buick or Toyota or something. After all, it's for transportation. Cut the crap. Drive it around and try it. Before Han Yueyao could speak, Su Yu pressed the key in Han Yueyao's hand. The car started. Su Yu reached out to open the car door. What are you waiting for? Get in. I don't dare. Who will pay if it's damaged? Han Yueyao thought that this car was so expensive. If it was damaged, she might not be able to afford it even if she sold herself. I'll be in the passenger seat. What are you afraid of? If it's damaged, it's on me. With that, Su Yu got into the passenger seat first. Seeing this, Han Yueyao knew that she couldn't avoid it. So, she braced herself and sat in the driver's seat. Her hand trembled as she turned the switch. Why are you looking at me? Drive. Su Yu seemed to be pushing a duck onto a perch. Han Yueyao made up her mind. He didn't care about anything else. He started the car, put it in gear, and left. Not to mention, it was quite stable. Just like that, the two of them came out of the underground parking lot and ran around Imperial Star. Finally, they returned to the parking lot. When Su Yu got out of the car, he said faintly, "Not bad." Here's the car. President Su, don't get so worked up. I was just joking. I don't want such an expensive car. Stop wasting time. If you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. Since you've advanced, I'll give you the car. Gosh, but I can't even afford the gas in such an expensive car. Han Yueyao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Refueling isn't my business. I'm only responsible for delivering the car. Also, I have conditions. I'm not giving it to you for free, Su Yu said. Han Yueyao thought, capitalists are indeed cunning. I can do anything except sleep with you. Han Yueyao mocked herself. Su Yu glanced at her. Sleep with you? In your dreams. Not to mention the disdain in his eyes, Han Yueyao laughed so hard that she couldn't stand straight. President Su had to admit that sometimes she was as funny as a child. I'll give you the car, but you have to sign a 5-year contract with Imperial Star. In other words, no matter how popular you are, you have to work for Imperial Star. Of course, if you want to jump ship, you have to give me back the car and pay me 300 million yuan for breaching the contract. What do you think? 300 million yuan. Are you kidding me? I won't even pay you 300 yuan. I won't jump ship. I plan to retire at Imperial Star. Han Yueyao readily agreed to the 5-year contract. After all, she didn't have any plans to jump ship. Okay, then you can drive the car. After 5 years, when the contract expires, it'll be completely yours. You can't change the name yet. You mean, if I hit someone with the car, it'll be your responsibility? President Su, you're so nice. Han Yueyao smiled slyly. Su Yu. Chapter 3966. What's in your head all day long? Su Yu really felt that there was a generation gap between him and this girl. This young lady's imagination was so big that he was left in the dust. After getting out of the Bugatti Veyron, Han Yueyao giggled. Although the car is mine, I can't always show off. If the unscrupulous media finds out, they'll say that I'm your sugar daddy. Giving me a car is too ridiculous, whatever. I've given you the car anyway. Su Yu put one hand in his pocket, looking cool. President Su, can I treat you to lunch? You just saved me at the door. I haven't thanked you properly yet. Fine. You're in debt. Don't treat me. Suyu looked down at his watch. Let's go to the employee cafeteria. We can still make it. Just like that, Han Yueyao followed Suyu to the employee cafeteria of Imperial Star. It was a sea of people because it was a meal. However, when they saw Suyu, they obediently made way for him. Hello, President Su. Hello, President Su. Everyone greeted Suyu along the way. There were countless people sucking up to him. Seeing Suyu's arrival, they even gave up their seats for him. Suyu took Han Yueyao to the cafeteria and ordered lunch. When they sat down, Han Yueyao glanced at Suyu's plate and laughed bitterly. It was rare for the cafeteria auntie to see the boss in person. So, she excitedly gave Suyu 3 full spoonfuls of rice. It wasn't enough for one person. Even 3 people wouldn't be able to finish it. In short, whether it was rice, vegetables, or fruits, Suyu ate 3 times more than others. Am I a pig? How can I finish all this? Suyu's jaw dropped. He picked up his phone and called for the rescue team on WeChat. Boss, what's your order? Where are you? Come up here. I'm downstairs. I'm in the cafeteria. Come and find me. All right. 5 minutes later, took the elevator up and sat beside Suyu. Come, help me finish it. Suyu said. Hee, boss, stop messing around. Looking at the mountain of food, Shaoan was scared out of his wits. I'm not messing around. Go get an empty plate and share it. We'll each take half. Suyu was a person who didn't like to waste food. This might have something to do with the fact that he used to be a soldier. Therefore, even if he couldn't finish it, he wouldn't waste it by throwing it away. Instead, he called for helpers to help him eat. Shaoan originally wanted to lose weight and eat less, but after being called up by his boss, he reluctantly shared half of the food. Suyu and Han Yueyao sat across from each other, talking and laughing. On the other side, Gao Yeruo and her friends were jealous. That little bitch Han Yueyao finally made a name for herself. Ever since she joined the reality show, her popularity has skyrocketed. I heard that her appearance fee is now hundreds of thousands, someone said. Yeah. After Su Xiaoxiao left, there's only Han Yueyao left. Yeruo, are you willing to let a newcomer bully you? Yeah. Yeruo, in terms of seniority, you came here earlier than them. In terms of looks, you're prettier than Han Yueyao. You're also our captain. This opportunity should be yours. Why should she have it? Look at how shameless she is with President Su. She even wants to take off her clothes. Women were scary when they were jealous, they always slandered others. Hearing this, Gao Yeruo felt uncomfortable. Shut up, all of you, Gao Yeruo said coldly. The girls immediately fell silent. Then, Gao Yeruo stood up with a smile and walked toward Han Yueyao. Chapter 3967. Yao Yao, congratulations. You've made another breakthrough. Gao Yeruo looked at Han Yueyao with a smile. Thank you. Han Yueyao's reaction was cold, but to her surprise, Gao Yeruo was thick-skinned and sat down next to her. I watched the live stream today. I think you did very well. You and Yuan Bo are a good match. By the way, when I watched the live stream, Yuan Bo confessed to you. You two are a good match. Gao Yeruo was smiling from beginning to end. But Han Yueyao knew this woman didn't have good intentions. Sure enough, after a few words, she kept talking about her and Yuanbo in front of Suyu. She was really a slut, a scheming bitch. Yuanbo and I are just partners. Forget about the media hype. People don't believe it. Han Yueao's reaction was still cold. But I can see that Yuanbo seems to be serious about you. Do you want to consider it? As a friend, I have to remind you that Yuanbo is very popular. If you really become his girlfriend, you'll have a bright future. Han Yueyao put down her chopsticks and sneered. First, I know what happened between Yuanbo and me. Second, Gao Yeruo, you seem to have forgotten. Let me remind you that you and I were never friends. I only have Su Xiaoxiao as a good friend at Imperial Star. Please don't flatter yourself. Third, next time you talk to me, try not to talk to me when I'm eating. After all, I don't want to lose my appetite. Gao Yeruo, Han Yueao's words were always sharp and didn't give Gao Yeruo any face. Some people might say that she wasn't tactful and didn't know how to deal with people. Of course, if she knew how to deal with people, she wouldn't be the straightforward Han Yueyao. After mocking Gao Yeruo, Han Yueyao got up and left with her plate, ignoring Su Yu, and Gao Yeruo got up awkwardly and ran away with her tail between her legs. Domineering. Miss Han is very manly. And thought highly of Han Yueyao and didn't show any mercy when it was time to fight. She rarely caused trouble. Su Yu touched his nose and didn't say anything. He just continued eating the mountain of food. In the afternoon, Su Yu held a meeting in the conference room to design the plans for the new season. And was bored waiting outside. He took out his phone and sent a WeChat message to Huamin. And, President Hua, are you there? Huamin, yes. Shaoan, President Hua, if you're free, why don't you come and visit President Su? Huamin, what's wrong? Is he not feeling well? Shaoan, no, he's been having nightmares recently. He can't fall asleep when he wakes up in the middle of the night. His sleep quality is not good. I've been working for him for a few years, but this is the first time I've seen him like this. Huamin, how long has it been? Shaoan, about a month. He's been like this. He's had nightmares 3 times. Every time he wakes up, he's very sad. Huamin, what dream? And, it's about you. Speaking of Su Yu's nightmare, Shaoan became hesitant. Huamin, about me. Tell me, and I know you'll tell me. And President Su keeps dreaming that something happened to you. He's covered in blood, and there's a forest and gunshots. In short, it's a very scary dream. You know what you mean to President Su. I think he might be a little haunted recently, so I want to ask him to see a master, but he doesn't believe in that. Huamin, has Su Yu been under a lot of pressure recently? Huamin was a little puzzled. Under normal circumstances, people wouldn't have nightmares frequently when they were in a normal state of mind. And, no, President Su hasn't been under any pressure recently. It's quite good. Huamin, where is he? And, in a meeting. Huamin, okay, I'll talk to him after the meeting. And, President Huamin, okay, I won't say it was you. Don't worry. And, okay, thank you, President Hua. Huamin wanted to talk to Su Yu about his recent situation, but this meeting didn't succeed because something happened to Su Yu. Chapter 3968. It was a very ordinary night. Su Yu didn't sleep well, so he lay down early to prepare for sleep. However, he still couldn't fall asleep peacefully. Perhaps it was related to that dream, but Su Yu had been having frequent nightmares recently, and he was already a little traumatized. He really wanted to close his eyes and return to that dark forest. He was really afraid that he would see Mian covered in blood again, so you still couldn't fall asleep in the middle of the night. Therefore, he got up and went upstairs to the study to read the company's report. Then, he opened a bottle of whiskey. He drank as he worked, just like that. 3 more hours passed until it was 2:00 in the morning. Suyu was slightly sleepy. He planned to go back to his bedroom to take a shower and fall asleep. However, when he passed by the corridor on the second floor, he suddenly saw a figure moving on the high wall outside. At first, Suyu thought that he had drunk too much and was hallucinating. However, when he took a closer look, there really was a figure. Even if he rubbed his eyes, he would still see the blurry white figure. Damn it! Did I see a ghost? Suyu cursed. Because he was from a military family, he never believed in ghosts and gods. Therefore, when An asked him to find a master to calculate, he didn't even think about it. Now that he saw a figure in the middle of the night, he would definitely find it strange. This community was famous for being rich. The security system was very good, and there had never been any burglary. Suyu's mansion was located in the center of the community. Under normal circumstances, other than the staff of the community, outsiders were not allowed to enter. Therefore, when Suyu saw the shadow outside his wall, he was very strange. He put on his coat and walked down curiously. He didn't even bring his phone with him. Suyu was at his own doorstep, and he knew his own skills. Without 8 or 10 people, he probably wouldn't be able to control Suyu. With this thought in mind, Suyu went downstairs step by step. Hearing footsteps and got up in a daze and opened the door. President Su. Are you going out? What time is it? I'm going out to get some fresh air. Suyu did not tell Shaoan about the situation outside. He only gave him a simple explanation. Therefore, An went back to bed and continued sleeping. Later, after Suyu got into trouble, Shaoan hated himself. Why did he sleep in? If he had gone out with Suyu, would boss have been fine? However, what he didn't understand was that those people were here for Suyu. If Shaoan went out, only death would await him. Therefore, not going out could be considered as saving his life indirectly. When Suyu came out, it was terrifyingly quiet outside. It was early winter in the north, and there wasn't much snow yet, so it was only bone-piercing cold. Suyu had planned to open the door and go out to see who was playing tricks in front of his door. Unexpectedly, when he opened the door, he didn't see anything. Impossible. Suyu was a little surprised. When he came down from upstairs, the shadow was still there. Why did he disappear when he came out? Even if that person heard the news and ran away, he wouldn't be so fast. Suyu was wondering where the white shadow had gone. Suddenly, a voice sounded behind him. Are you looking for me? Suyu turned around abruptly and found that she was behind him. However, he didn't notice her at all. Suyu suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Suyu thought that he was a very vigilant person. But all of this was like a fool being played in circles by others. At this moment, he could smell the scent of danger. Chapter 3969. Under the faint moonlight, Suyu was slightly stunned when he saw the person's face. Suyu, you didn't expect us to meet again in this life, did you? The woman sneered. Suyu was about to say something when he suddenly felt a numbing sensation on his back. His vision turned black, and he lost consciousness. Done. A man in black appeared behind Suyu. Who told you to act so quickly? The woman seemed to be quite dissatisfied. Her smug mood seemed to have not passed. Mr. Y told me to. He said that the security system in this community is very flexible. We can't waste too much time. The car is ready. Let's go. You gave him an anesthetic. Yes, it's enough for him to sleep for 12 hours. When he wakes up again, he'll be in our territory. The man smiled wickedly with a smug look on his face. Good, very good. I've been waiting for this moment for 5 years, the woman said with a smile. I didn't expect Suyu to be so weak. It was too easy to catch him. He was careless. Maybe it's because he's shocked to see me again. The woman smiled and walked over. She kicked the unconscious Suyu with her high heels with a look of contempt. The man and woman carried the unconscious Suyu and mysteriously disappeared into the night. In the morning, when An woke up, he thought that Suyu had not woken up. Suyu had been sitting on the sofa in the living room. He waited until almost 8 o'clock, but Suyu still did not move. And found it strange because Suyu rarely slept so late. Even if he was drunk, he wouldn't sleep until the sun was shining on his butt. And carefully went to Suyu's bedroom and knocked on the door. President Su, it's time to get up. No response. President Su, it's time. You have a regular meeting today. Still no response, and made up his mind and rushed in at the risk of being scolded. Then, he was stunned. Suyu's room was empty. The blanket was still messy and unfolded. It was obvious that Suyu had messed up the bed last night. President Su, Shaoan shouted, but there was still no response. He started to panic and started to search upstairs and downstairs. He even searched the basement, the parking lot, the gym, and the cinema. The entire villa was more than 900 square meters, but there was no sign of Suyu. Only then did Shaoan realize that something was wrong. He didn't call Suyu because he found a phone in Suyu's bedroom. Boss didn't take the phone with him. He flipped through his phone and didn't find any suspicious call history, including WeChat. He thought back to last night when he woke up in a daze in the middle of the night. Boss said that he wanted to go out for some fresh air. That's right. Thinking of this, and drove directly to the security room in the community and asked for the surveillance footage. The security guards here all knew Shaoan and knew that he was Suyu's assistant. Therefore, he didn't dare to make things difficult for him and only obediently did as he was told. And watched the surveillance video of last night without blinking. At the entrance of Suyu's villa, there was nothing. Yes, there was nothing. And you saw it too. There's really nothing unusual. Our security guards patrol 24 hours a day and take turns. If something strange really happened, there's no reason for us not to know. The surveillance footage hadn't been erased, but they couldn't see anything unusual. Suddenly, Anne's heart turned cold. He pointed at the surveillance footage and said, "No, there's something wrong with this surveillance footage." "What's wrong?" "It's clearly very normal, just like usual." The security captain didn't quite understand what it meant. Our President Su went out in the middle of the night last night and said that he wanted to get some fresh air, but your surveillance footage didn't capture his shadow. This is abnormal to begin with. Someone must have tampered with the surveillance footage. Shaoan's reaction was also fast enough. He immediately found the bug. Chapter 3970. I still don't quite understand what you mean. The security guards were still simple-minded, so they didn't seem to understand Anne's meaning. Forget it, I'll copy these first. I'll go find someone to help me. And realized the seriousness of the problem, so he took out a USB flash drive and cut out all the surveillance footage of Suyu's mansion. Then, he left the security room in a hurry and drove straight to GK. Yes, Anne's first reaction was to find Huamin, because Huamin was smart and Suyu's best friend. GK headquarters. When Anne rushed in, Huamin and Qin Chu were both surprised. President Qin, President Hua, something happened to our boss. They could tell from Anne's panting that he ran all the way in. What's wrong? Huamin stood up with his big belly and put down the financial newspaper in his hand. After she stopped working, she went to work with Qin Chu every day, and the couple was especially sweet. Mr. Qin was even more motivated to work now. Upon hearing Anne's words, Qin Chu's expression changed slightly. He stood up and walked over. And, speak slowly. Qin Chu's assistant, Yang, poured a glass of water for Anne. However, he didn't drink it because his heart was still beating wildly. Last night, in the middle of the night, my boss said he wanted to go out for some fresh air. At the time, I thought he hadn't been sleeping well and wanted to go out for a walk. I didn't think much of it, but now that I think about it, I really regret it. If I went out with him, maybe things wouldn't be like this, and gritted his teeth, hating himself for being so lazy and not going out with Suyu. And then, what happened to Suyu? Huamin was very nervous because he knew Anne's temper too well. He wasn't the kind of person who liked to scare people. And had a calm personality and had been by Suyu's side for many years. If it wasn't something serious, he wouldn't have come to GK's headquarters without caring about his image. After all, Suyu and Qin Chu used to be rivals in love. Most of the time, Suyu would choose to talk to Huamin privately in private. But this time, he didn't even have the chance to call or send a WeChat message in private. He knew that something urgent had happened. And took a deep breath and continued, when I woke up this morning, I found that our boss was gone. Gone. Have you called him? Qin Chu asked. I didn't take the phone with me. It's at home. Then where did he go? Huamin asked. It's just that I don't know where it went. I couldn't find it anywhere. Then, I went to the surveillance room to get the video. After watching it carefully several times, I found that there was something wrong with the surveillance. As he spoke, and took out the USB flash drive. Let me see. Qin Chu took the USB flash drive and plugged it into his laptop. Huamin quickly walked behind him, and the two watched the video carefully together. Someone must have tampered with the surveillance video. Otherwise, it would have captured President Su leaving the house. And added. Honey, let me try. Huamin rarely used his hacking skills, but it didn't mean that he didn't know how to do it. She sat on Qin Chu's chair and quickly typed on the keyboard. It only took her 3 minutes to crack the video perfectly. It's like this. The video was edited. The person who did this is very good and is also a hacker expert. If you don't look carefully, you won't be able to tell, Huamin said worriedly after verifying the video. Is Suyu's phone with you? Let me see. Qin Chu heard Suyu's phone call and turned to look at an, yes, it's here. And carefully handed over Suyu's phone. Chapter 3971. Honey, can you check the phone and see if there's anything wrong with it? Huamin nodded, took Suyu's phone, and connected it to the computer. However, she saw something that made her feel very awkward. If it weren't for Suyu's accident, no one would have the right to touch Suyu's personal belongings. She didn't know that Suyu's screensaver was still Huamin's photo. It was a photo from a few years ago. Compared to now, Huamin was still very young back then. It was a photo of Huamin when he first came to Southside as a doctor. He was wearing a white coat and a pair of black-framed glasses. At that time, Huamin's hair wasn't as long as it was now, but it was still very pleasing to the eye. Ahem. And coughed awkwardly behind the couple. Huamin was also a bit embarrassed, so he quickly went to work. After checking, Huamin unplugged the phone. There's nothing wrong with the phone. There's no suspicious or deleted call history, Huamin said. That's strange. Suyu doesn't seem like someone who would be kidnapped so easily. Could it be that he had something to do and left on his own? That's impossible. President Su would never leave without saying anything. Even if he left, there would be surveillance footage. The problem is, President Su disappeared into thin air. And explained anxiously. How could a living person disappear into thin air? Someone must have done something. Huamin's heart sank. He had a feeling that this matter wasn't that simple. Qin Chu also frowned slightly and analyzed. To be able to kidnap Suyu in the middle of the night without a sound, the person must be very powerful. Yes, I also guessed that the enemy must be very powerful. Otherwise, President Su wouldn't have been kidnapped so easily without even being able to fight back. Did Suyu offend anyone recently? Qin Chu asked. And no, but, not long ago, President Su's car was tampered with. Fortunately, I found out in time. That is to say, someone has been plotting against him. Qin Chu raised his eyebrows. Hubby, have you forgotten? The car accident. Huamin reminded Qin Chu. Yes, we still couldn't find any clues about the previous incident. It's very likely that the people who tampered with the car accident, and the people who kidnapped Suyu, are all part of the same group. Who could it be? Huamin raised his head and sighed. I'll call Gao Ran first and ask him to check all suspicious vehicles and surveillance cameras in the city. Qin Chu turned around and took his phone to call Gao Ran from the municipal bureau for help. Shaowen, on the other hand, was extremely anxious. President Hua. Will something happen to our boss? And was worried that Suyu would be killed just like that. No, Suyu is lucky. Huamin convinced himself. But those people clearly want his life. I was too careless. I should have gone out with him last night, and was extremely regretful. He reached out and pounded his chest. It was too late to say anything now. Huamin comforted and with mixed feelings. Don't think that way. Perhaps this is to protect you. And, think about it. Suyu's skills are no worse than yours, but he was easily kidnapped. It won't make a difference if you go out. At most, you might die, so it's not your fault. President Hua, I've always thought that you're the smartest person. President Su cares about you the most. You must think of a way to save our boss. And was completely flustered. He could only place all his hopes on Huamin. Chapter 3972. Don't worry, I'll definitely find Suyu. Huamin had always been a dull person. She had never been cheerful. At most, she would joke around with her friends. Therefore, she didn't cry in the face of such a big matter. She didn't sit on the ground and cry in grief either. She only gave in a very simple sentence, I'll definitely find Suyu. Facts proved that actions were always more important than verbal promises. Huamin used her actions to prove her promise. Of course, to her, Suyu was as important as family. All these years of entanglement, Suyu's feelings for her, kindness, and everything, Huamin remembered in her heart. And, go back to the company and make arrangements. Don't let the company fall into chaos. Huamin remembered that no one was in charge of Suyu's company. President Hua, I'm just a bodyguard and an assistant. You know, I've never asked about work all these years. Aren't you forcing me to do something beyond my ability? Shaowen looked troubled. He never knew how to do business, but he knew how to fight. Huamin sighed slightly. This is no small matter. How about this? Give me the contact information of the Vice President of Imperial Star. I'll explain some things. As for the specific next step, I still have to discuss it with Wei Liao, Tang Chuan, and the others. Okay. And found the number of the Vice President of Imperial Star from Su Yu's phone and handed it to Huamin. And, you call him. Because you're Su Yu's assistant, everything you say has power. But I don't know how to say it. And looked troubled. I'll teach you. Okay. Under Huamin's instructions, and called the vice president of the company. The gist of it was that President Su had gone on a business trip for a few days to deal with some urgent matters. The company was temporarily handed over to him to manage. He would not take on any big projects, but the small ones would continue. Actually, the company's operations were no longer the same as before. There was no need for the CEO to do everything himself. In a real big company, you just have to find a few capable executives, and then you have to make them understand, and everything will be okay. Therefore, Huamin wasn't worried about the operation of Imperial Star, but this method might work in the short term, but it definitely wouldn't work in the long term. The date of Su Yu's return was a mystery. Huamin didn't even dare to think about whether Su Yu's life would be in danger. What was the purpose of those people capturing Su Yu? Was it revenge? A life for a life? Or, extorting a huge sum of money? Or did he have other motives? He didn't know any of this. After that, Huamin looked at the nervous and, "Have you not eaten yet?" And shook his head tiredly. A rumbling sound came from his stomach, and his honest face flushed slightly. Yang. Madam. Yang quickly opened the door and came in. Taken to the dining room for breakfast. President Hua, I'm not hungry. I can't eat. And was very angry. If something happened to Su Yu, his sky would collapse. You'll only have the strength to think about how to find Su Yu after you eat. We can't collapse before that. Huamin was always so persuasive. He persuaded him to eat with just a few words. Qin Chu also ended the call with Gao Ran. How is it, honey? Gao Ran has investigated, but no clues. Huamin guessed. Yes, there are no clues. These people are very powerful. They kidnapped Su Yu and planned this for a long time. After hearing that Gao Ran couldn't find anything, Qin Chu was in a bad mood. Su Yu, this love rival, had become Qin Chu's most special friend. Honey, what should we do now? Should we tell Auntie Su and the others? Huamin felt very confused and didn't know what to do. Chapter 3973. Of course we can't keep such a big thing a secret. Call Lord Su and the others and tell them. Then. Lord Su must be very sad. Huamin thought about how an old man like him would feel if he knew that something happened to his precious grandson. Then I'll call him. No, I'll do it. Huamin knew that he was more suitable because Huamin had lived with the Su family for more than a year. He was very familiar with all the members of the Su family. Then tell Tang Chuan, Wei Liao, Xiao Wei, and the others to come over. Let's discuss what to do. Okay. Qin Chu nodded, and the couple split up. Lord Su was still in Jing City, but when he heard that something happened to Su Yu, he took a private plane back with Mr. Su. Mrs. Su, on the other hand, ran directly to GK from South Side, her face pale. Tang Chuan, Qin Ning, Wei Liao, and Jiang Xiaowei arrived half an hour later. When everyone heard that Su Yu was missing, almost all of them put down their work and ran to GK headquarters. The atmosphere in GK's president's office was very heavy. Lady Su held a tissue in her hand, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mian, do you think anything will happen to my Yu? I'm so scared. If anything happens to him, I don't want to live anymore. I can't bear to see my son die before me. Lady Sue's cries were heartbreaking, and everyone felt even worse after hearing what she said. Auntie, Lord Su will definitely be fine. He will be blessed by God, Wei Liao comforted. Yeah, Auntie, did you forget the blind old man who told our fortunes when we were young? He said that Lord Su was destined to be rich and have children. Tang Chuan really wanted to dig up what happened 700 years ago. Auntie, don't cry. Let's discuss what to do first. Huamin reached out and placed his hand on the back of Lady Sue's hand. Gao Ran was the last to arrive, and he had a lot of documents in his hands. Any news? Seeing Gao Ran come in, he quickly stood up. This is all the information I can find. Gao Ran didn't look too good, and he put down the documents in his hand. Huamin, he picked it up. We found all this. Yeah. That's why we don't have any clues. This group is very powerful, and they should be a high-level criminal gang. There must be a hacker in their group, so they hacked into the surveillance system without leaving any trace. Also, there must be more than one master of martial arts who could kidnap Su Yu. That's why they could kidnap Su Yu. But we can't rule out the possibility that it's someone we know, Gao Ran analyzed. Huamin stood up slowly. I agree with Gao Ran. There must be several masters who could kidnap Su Yu so easily. But there are too many of them and they might be discovered, so the kidnappers might not do that. Then there's the second possibility, which is that Su Yu might know one of them and let his guard down. That's impossible. We're the only people who know Su Yu well. Other than us, no one can kidnap him. What about Shen Mingxi and Nie Lingxian? Jiang Shaowei asked. Her speculation was reasonable. Other than the few people present, Shen Mingxi and Nie Lingxian were the most suspicious. Shen Mingxi, that's impossible, Wei Liao said. Ever since he remarried Ying, he's been extremely grateful to Mr. Su. Plus, he and Ying were in Harbor City cutting clothes for a new company. They left yesterday morning and haven't come back yet, so it's not valid. To his surprise, Wei Liao, who hated Shen Mingxi the most, helped him clarify the matter. I've also checked Nie Lingxian. She's still in the States. There's no motive or environment for the crime, Qin Chu said. What should we do? Is it possible that the kidnappers are secret agents? What state secrets are involved? Tang Chuan's imagination ran wild. Auntie, you should pay attention to your phone. If the kidnappers want money, I think they'll contact your family. Qin Chu looked at Lady Su, who was sitting on the sofa with a pale face. Chapter 3974. Lady Su nodded weakly. In the end, everyone left on bad terms. Su Yu's disappearance cast a thick layer of haze over everyone in the circle. Su Yu was like Huamin, he was a core figure in this circle. Once he activated his entire body, therefore, everyone's mood was particularly depressed. When they walked out, Qin Ning was still puzzled. Chuan, say. Lord Su is so powerful, but he was taken away. If the target was me, wouldn't I have died hundreds of times? Bah, you little brat, I won't allow you to say such inauspicious things. Tang Chuan rubbed Qin Ning's cheeks with both hands, feeling sad and distressed. Haha, I'm joking. Don't be nervous. Don't joke like this in the future, or you'll what? Qin Ning raised her face, obviously provoking him. She knew that Tang Chuan doted on her a lot. Usually, He didn't even dare to speak too loudly, afraid that he would scare the little princess. "Or I'll spank your butt with a wooden board with such a long nail. Then I'll spank your butt until it bleeds," Tang Chuan threatened. "Okay, Mr. Tang, stop bragging. Let's just enjoy ourselves." Qi Ning intimately held on to Tang Chuan's arm, and the two of them walked to the company. Qi Ning's newly established marine biological technology company was a female skincare company. Because it was newly established, it wasn't well known yet, so it was registered under Tang Chuan's company. The two of them went to work and got off work together, similar to Huamin and Qin Chu. Ever since Qi Ning returned to China, she had been radiant. In addition to work, she had made many new friends and was very active in the upper-class circle. On weekends, she drove a $10 million luxury car to take the twins out to play and eat. She had long forgotten about her father who was far away in the States. Fortunately, Qin Chu's second uncle didn't care so much. After Su Yu's accident, everyone tried to find him through various channels. Wei Liao and Tang Chuan had even privately sought out the mafia bosses in the provinces whom they had not had much contact with for many years. However, 3 days had passed, and there was still no news of Su Yu. Fortunately, the company could still operate normally. All information was sealed off. This was the order of Master Lord Su. In order to cause the outside world to make wild guesses and panic among the company's employees, Lord Su ordered that no one was allowed to leak the news of Su Yu's disappearance. And didn't close his eyes for 3 days and 3 nights in that empty villa. Su Yu's shadow was everywhere. As a bodyguard, Shaoan was very sad to lose his master. But the Su family didn't blame him. When Lord Su and his father rushed back from the capital that day, they only secretly met with Qin Chu and Huamin. The old man's mood was extremely heavy, and his back view made Huamin's heart ache. Han Yueyao had been rehearsing and didn't know what had happened. However, she hadn't contacted Su Yu for 3 days. At first, she wanted to maintain her dignity. She felt that it wasn't good to take the initiative to message President Su. After all, he was so busy. Later, she couldn't take it anymore and sent a message, but Su Yu didn't respond. Finally, she couldn't help but ask her assistant. "Recently, have you seen President Su? He's in the company." "No, I really didn't pay much attention. Now that you mention it, I remember that I haven't seen President Su in the past few days." The assistant also realized it. "Has anyone seen him in the company?" "I'm not sure." "Why don't you ask?" Han Yueyao shook her head. During the break in her dance practice, she sat on the edge of the wall, sweating profusely, and took out her phone. Unwilling to give up, she sent another WeChat message. "President Su, practicing dance is so stressful. I feel suffocated. How about I take you out for a ride in my Bugatti Veyron?" Chapter 3975. 5 minutes later, there was still no response. Han Yueyao was a little disappointed. What she didn't know was that Su Yu's phone was in Huamin's hands. After An brought it to him that day, Huamin had been keeping it. Gao Ran would occasionally use it to investigate. Huamin didn't like to invade other people's privacy, so she sent Su Yu's calls to voicemail. He never replied to her WeChat messages. When Han Yueyao sent the WeChat message, Huamin was staring at Su Yu's phone in a daze. She glanced at it and saw the message. She wanted to tell Han Yueyao that Su Yu was missing. But when she thought of Lord Su's words, the fewer people who knew, the better. As a member of the Su family, no one knew if Su Yu's disappearance was due to personal reasons or if the military was involved. Therefore, Lord Su didn't want to announce it to the public and could only search in secret. However, even with Lord Su's great power, there was still no news after 3 days. Suyu didn't have a tracker on him, so they couldn't locate him. In other words, they had to activate their heavenly eye and start searching with satellite positioning. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. It was so uncertain. Moreover, everyone knew that their opponent might be a highly intelligent and high-tech criminal trafficker. If the system could do such a perfect restoration, its anti-reconnaissance ability was probably very strong. Qin Chu went to the conference room for a meeting. Huamin sat in his office absent-mindedly. "Madam, have something to eat. Look at how much you've been eating these days." Yang didn't know what happened, but the president and madam had been worried recently. Huamian only took a sip of the warm milk or didn't take a sip at all. The lunch was delivered by the restaurant. Huamin put down his chopsticks after a few bites. "I'm fine. Go do your work." At this moment, Huamin's phone rang. It was a video call. Mommy, Little Bean's chubby little face was especially cute in front of the camera. "Little Bean, are you on your lunch break?" I did very well today. I ate 2 servings of rice." "Wow, that's great. Where's Big Sis?" "My sister isn't as awesome as I am. She's a picky eater. She picked out all the carrots and cabbages and only ate the meat. The 2 of you, remember what your mother said. You need to have a balanced diet." I know. Handsome Sue said that if we eat well, he'll take us to Tokyo Disneyland at the end of the month." "When did he say that?" Huamin's heart skipped a beat. "Last week, when I was video chatting with him, my sister and I wanted to go to Disneyland, but the U.S. is too far away and unsafe. Handsome Sue said, he's going to Tokyo for a meeting at the end of the month, and he can take us with him. He even said he'll help us convince Mommy." Huamin didn't say anything after hearing that. His heart grew heavier. "Mommy, did Handsome Sue ask you for permission? Did you approve it? My sister and I will be obedient. My sister has money, so we won't spend Handsome Sue's money. I also promise you that I won't eat desserts for a month, okay?" Little Bean video chatted to ask if Suyu told Huamin about going to Japan. The world of children was so simple. They only knew how to eat, drink, and have fun. Even if they were genius twins, they were still naive children. They didn't know that something had happened to Suyu. "Suyu, he told me." Huamin's emotions were complicated, and his voice was choked with sobs. "Do you agree?" Little Bean asked carefully. It was obvious that she was afraid of her mother. "Yes, when Uncle Sue comes back from his business trip, I'll ask him to take you." Huamin tried to control his emotions so that he wouldn't lose control in front of his children. "Yay! That's great. Mommy, I love you. Ha! I'll tell Handsome Sue the good news later." Little Bean was so happy that she danced. Chapter 3976. Little Bean's words made things worse, and Huamian's heart sank even more. "Little Bean, don't video call or call Uncle Sue for the next few days." "Why?" Little Bean didn't understand. She tilted her head and looked at her mother, seemingly a little dissatisfied. "Because Uncle Sue is on a business trip. He's very busy and doesn't have time to chat with you." "Huh? Why didn't he tell me that?" "You're just a kid, Uncle Sue can't tell you everything. Anyway, don't ask about adult things. You and your sister can focus on school." "Okay, Mommy, you have to keep your word. When Handsome Sue comes back from his business trip, you have to agree to let him take us to Japan." Okay, as long as he comes back. I'll agree. Huamin felt like she couldn't continue. She didn't wait for Little Bean to say goodbye and hurriedly hung up the video call. She was extremely upset. Outside the office, Chin Chu came back from a meeting and looked at Huamin through the glass window. He was also worried. She still didn't eat anything. Chin Chu asked Assistant Yang. Yeah, she still didn't eat anything. She didn't even drink the milk I warmed for her. Okay, I got it. President Chin, what's wrong with Madam? It's rare to see her like this. She seems to be very angry. Even Yang could tell that Huamin was very strange these 2 days. It's okay, let me do it. Chin Chu took the freshly warmed milk from Yang and walked in. You can't not eat anything, the child has to eat. Chin Chu carefully placed the milk on the coffee table in front of Huamin. Huamin only reacted when she heard her husband's voice. Honey, I'm really not hungry. It's not for you, it's for the child. Yu Yao is hungry. This was the first time Chin Chu called Huamin the child's name. Because the child didn't have a nickname, he called him Yu Yao. Huamin's heart skipped a beat. Maybe her husband convinced her. She picked up the glass of milk and slowly drank it. The couple didn't say much. Chin Chu knew that Huamin was smart. She understood everything he said. If she can't get over it, it's useless no matter what you say. In fact, Huamin couldn't get over it either. There was no news of Su Yu, and he didn't even know if he was dead or alive. Chin Chu was also in a bad mood. He only hoped that this was a simple kidnapping. He thought that Su Yu would go undercover and fight a battle of wits and courage with the kidnappers before returning safely. Inside the school after hanging up the video call, Little Bean was a little confused. Sis, don't you think that mommy is a little strange? Pudding didn't show up when Little Bean was video chatting with mommy, but she heard everything. Yes, a little. You noticed it too. Little Bean leaned over and looked at Pudding. Mommy's voice is a little strange. She doesn't sound happy. I wonder if she had a fight with Daddy. Pudding guessed. That's impossible. The whole world knows that Daddy doesn't have the heart to make Mommy angry. How could they have a fight? I think it's because Mommy is about to give birth to a little brother. What's it called? Prenatal mania. Pooh. Don't talk nonsense. I've heard of prenatal depression, but I've never heard of prenatal mania. Pudding admired her sister's ability to make up stories. Those who didn't understand would be stunned by her sister's lies. Of course, Gao Buiyuan was one of the biggest victims. Anyway, I think Mommy is a little strange. We'd better stay away from her, Little Bean muttered. I'm going to Auntie Wei Ying's house after school. Do you want to come? You must have an appointment with Yun Chu. That's his auntie's house. I'm not going. Little Bean tilted her head and walked away. Shaking her head helplessly, Pudding picked up her WeChat and sent a message to Su Yu. Handsome Su, Mommy said you're on a business trip. Come back soon. Little Bean and I will miss you. Chapter 3977. The whole city seemed to be gloomy because of Su Yu's disappearance. Sea City had been cloudy these days, but it didn't snow. The gloomy atmosphere made people irritated. It was hard to be in a good mood. What they talked about the most in the group was their progress in finding Su Yu every day. Wei Liao and Tang Chuan put down almost all their businesses to find Su Yu. Gao Ran used his power in the Municipal Public Security Bureau to try to find a breakthrough. Chin Chu even contacted Rick and used some foreign videos to see if he could find anything. No, we haven't found anything yet. If we find anything, I'll tell you immediately. I understand. Money isn't a problem. I'll do whatever it takes. Don't worry, I know how important he is to you. Rick spoke to Chin Chu in fluent English. After hanging up, Rick turned to look at Lu Yen. You were talking to my brother-in-law, right? Lu Yen smiled. You even know this. Don't tell me you installed a bug on my phone as well. Rick's face was cold. Lu Yen looked at him with disdain. Come on, I'm not that low. Isn't it easy to guess? My brother-in-law is your only friend. Rick, now it was Rick's turn to feel awkward. Lu Yan's sharpness was well-deserved. Alright, enough nonsense. Let's talk about our cooperation first. Rick changed the topic. He didn't expect Su Yu to have anything to do with Lu Yan, so he didn't tell Lu Yan about it. Lu Yan had agreed to take this job mostly because of her brother-in-law. Otherwise, she wouldn't even want to make 1 billion because she hated seeing that bastard Cassius. Cassius is most afraid of you. Rick immediately looked up at Lu Yan, who was applying lipstick in front of a small mirror. Yeah, continue. Cassius has been in Colombia recently. Because it involves my partner, I have no choice but to do this. I'm afraid you'll have to make a personal trip. There's no other way. Transfer the rest of the money to my Swiss account. Shouldn't you give it to me after you're done? Rick was speechless. Are you kidding me? I always collect the money first. Seeing the money gives me motivation. Otherwise, I really don't want to take another look at that damn pervert. After putting on makeup, Lu Yan put the Chanel lipstick in her purse. Money is not a problem. I will transfer it now. When do you plan to go to Colombia? Lu Yan looked down at her watch. I'll take my private jet there in half an hour. But let me make this clear, if I use any extreme means, don't blame me for leaving you a mess. For example. Rick was unsure. For example, when you blow up that pervert, you accidentally blow up your partner. Rick, Miss Lu Yen, I'm not married yet. Please call me Queen Lu Yen. Rick, I know you're a bomb genius, but can you not use a bomb this time? I'm afraid it'll hurt my goods. Rick was also in a terrible fix. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't transport the goods back safely, he really didn't want to deal with Lu Yen. Lu Yen was really difficult to get along with. Rick suddenly felt that his wife, Cece, was really gentle and virtuous. She was the role model of a typical Chinese woman. Anyone who accidentally fell in love with Lu Yen would have to worry about her. Are you cursing me in your mind? Seeing Rick's silence, Lu Yen guessed that he had a lot going on in his mind. Ahem. No. It's okay. Go ahead and curse me. I don't mind. But if you continue to talk to me and delay my dinner, I might have to pay you $100 million more. Rick, I really don't think you should be a mercenary. You should be a bandit, Rick commented on Lu Yen. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.